Last time we were in North America at Sebring. This time we've come over to Italy for round number 3 of the Virtual Racing School GT iRacing World Championship Series, brought to you here on RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live. We'll be right back after this short message.
Team racing allows multiple iRacing members to team up and race together, just like in real-world endurance series. Teammates can share driving duties, spot for one another, or be a crew chief. Team racing is free, both to join a team and to create one. Each teammate races on his or her own computer from wherever they want to. Your teammates can be anywhere in the world, and changing drivers mid-race is as easy as a click of a button. iRacing features team endurance events ranging from just a couple of hours to 24 hours in length. So, if you fancy taking part in an iRacing endurance race in the future, you can learn more about team racing on the teams page on the member website.
Welcome along to round 3 of the VRS GT iRacing World Championship Series here from Autodromo Nazionale Monza. And well, outside of North America, this is the Cathedral of Speed and the traditional home of the Italian Grand Prix. But today, it's team racing. It is endurance racing, 3 hours around Monza. And what an exciting, interesting race has hopefully proved to be. Really interesting dynamic around this track with the different cars, and we'll be talking about those very shortly. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Paul Smith. Alongside me is Connery Maddock and Randy Cheneth, with Hugo Lewis on the cameras here. Just a quick thanks to Istvan Below, TrackCams22.com, the overlay design, which is Andres Werner, and Simon Grossom, the development of the ATVO products that we use for our graphics, and live timing, of course, brought to you by help of Nick Thiessen. And well, gentlemen, we'll start with you, Connery. After the first 2 rounds, we've got a tied championship at the top.
Yes, we do. It's FA Racing G2 Logitech G being tied up with Pure Racing Team Red at the top of the championship standings. Currently qualifying is underway. Most of your teams and drivers on their first laps right now, but it's Monza. It's such a historic racing circuit, and because of its very nature of you being on that 100% throttle for the vast majority of the lap, it can throw up a few surprises.
Absolutely. Just looking at those championship standings as well, TTL eSports, our other race winners from round 1 at Bathurst, they are in 4th place, just behind Core Sim Racing. Black really close between those two, with VRS Quanda Sim Sport number 8 in 5th place. So it's that top 5 really that are really going to be maybe positioning themselves, Randy, for the championship as we go on.
That's really what we're looking at, definitely. Thing is with TTL Esports is, while they had a very good run at Bathurst, they were sort of mediocre at best, I would say, at the second round at Sebring. They had good practice pace in the warm-up. Let's see what they can do in qualifying. Josh Rogers is definitely the heavy hitter at that team. Let's see if he can put something together. But with an extra little bit of ballast for the Audi here at Monza, they might struggle once again.
Well, conditions here today, it's overcast, 29 degrees is the air temperature, same as the track temperature, with winds coming out the northeast at 8 kilometers an hour. So not the most difficult conditions here, Connery, for these drivers to contend with, and tyre life will be a little bit better, and you would imagine that you're going to see most teams double stint the tyres here today.
Yeah, I think so. We had a little bit of a discussion before the broadcast whether we'll be seeing some teams take the dive and perhaps go no stops at all throughout this entire race, but we don't think that's going to happen with the tyre wear the way it has been with these GT3 machines. So I think most of your cars will be on the double stint strategy today in terms of the tyres. We've also got some bounce performance tweaks to talk about, especially with that Audi with the 40 kilogram ballast that it has. Apparently there's some rumors that it may not even make the error on fuel.
Well, I mean, this is it. I was just going to bring the subject onto that, Randy, because as we say, big weight penalty for the Audi, 40 kilograms. The McLaren and the Mercedes getting 5 kilograms each as well. So iRacing trying to do their best to just balance out the performance of these cars as we're going into the meat of the season here.
Definitely trying. Things look like they may be getting closer and closer, but we're still waiting on a number of course, drivers to put in lap times. And while drivers from the Audis, there's been complaints from the ballast. You know, there's a lot of rumors, like Connery has said, with the extra weight may make it difficult for them to hit the hour here. They might have to do some fuel saving. Right now in qualifying trim, the 4 rings still very, very strong. Right now, VRS GT and SimSport are on pole. TTL eSport's not far behind that. Then you get a Ferrari, and then you get another Audi. So a lot of Audis still out of the 2020 in the field. I think they're looking a little bit closer than what we've seen in the first 2 rounds, where there's no other way to say it. It's been an Audi series that is pretty much dominated by them.
Well, let's, whilst qualifying is going on, let's just talk about the venue then. Monza, it is a unique track. It's some would think it's easy, but it's not easy, Connery, around this track. You've got to do your best to stay in the slipstream of the car in front to carry as much speed as you can, but you've got some really heavy braking zones, and you're going to be running next to no, if in fact you do bother running any wing on this car today. So these guys are going to be pushing the adhesion on the track to the limit, and through parts like the De La Roggia and the Rettifilia, places like that, cars are going to be maybe a little bit squirrely on corner exit.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a much more of a tactical race than we have seen so far this season. I say that just as Inex Racing Blue decides to get themselves pole position, so McLaren's straight line speed really working well for Justin Brunner and his team right now. But returning back to the point, I think this race is going to be much more tactical. You'll be seeing a lot of fuel saving, especially from the Audis, to try and make that hour mark. But if some of those Audi teams find out that they can't make the hour mark, they're going to go very, very aggressive with the stops.
Well, yeah, we could touch on the strategy as well here, Randy, because if you're in second, third, if you're in a queue of cars, you may be tempted to do sort of the oval approach and just sit behind the car in front of you.
I mean, that's pretty much going to be the best thing that you can do, because the main thing is it's going to be like a Daytona 24. You know, when we typically see that broadcast at the beginning of the year, you're going to want to see teams and drivers. You're going to be relatively patient with the slipstream. You might be running 6th, 7th, 8th in line, but if you're in one long train of cars, there's no point in you trying to immediately jump the driver in front of you on the track and potentially lose that slipstream of the cars in front. So expect drivers, I think, to be very patient with one another. You want to try to work that slipstream as best that you can and try to, 1, save fuel, and 2, keep taps with the other teams that are out in front of you, because the slipstream, it can really be a bit of a talent, let's just say, equalizer here. You know, they generally say that rain and inclement weather tends to be the great equalizer in motorsports. Well, at a place like Monza, it's usually the draft.
Well, just looking at the qualifying at the moment, and your championship leaders, well, let's have a look here, because FA Racing G2 Logitech are in 9th place at the moment. In fact, dropped them down to 10th place, as Inex now are Hook is basically dominating the front row at the moment. But where on earth is Pure Racing Team Red on qualifying? I can't see them myself, but they've not set a time yet. So they really need to get a shift on here, Connery. They've got
itself a top 10 so far this season.
Well, Pure Racing Team Red do set a lap time. It's a 1:45.7. So that moves them up to 9th place ahead of their joint championship leaders in this one. One thing to mention as well is that we have lost the Hoisenvelt Core Motorsports team name from this. It's just Team 33. For the time being, until we find out what happens here. Well, it's just team on our graphics, absolutely. But you know, Randy, once again, we're seeing shake-ups of teams into an endurance series.
Yeah, it's become kind of a standard here, especially for this endurance racing sort of format. Some of these esports teams have come in. We still don't know where that Husenfeld team motorsports group has gone, but I don't know, it's got to be interesting. One thing I'm surprised, and we saw this from Core when all the drivers made a mass exodus from there and went over there to FAG2. I'm not really sure what the long delay is in terms of an announcement coming from wherever they went is, because I don't understand the logic. It's been, we're coming up on a month since that Neo 24 Hours of Le Mans, which they won, and then pretty much the announcement came out that all the drivers were leaving. So it's sort of like, okay, where in the world have you gone, and what's taking so long? Just get it out. We all want to know.
Yep, we do want to know. It's intriguing, and it's part of the politics of sim racing. It's almost like we're almost heading towards the territory of heading down towards a sort of Formula One approach here, Connery, with how drivers are sort of positioning themselves, trying to get themselves into the best team they can for themselves.
It is, and it does make our jobs a little bit more difficult because we hear some things from some drivers and hear other things from other drivers. So there's a lot of smoke and mirrors going on as to where these drivers might be going. But from what I heard, it might just be a new team as well. So that is one to look out for. You've got the likes of Team LDLC make their presence known on the sim racing side of things. Of course, they're a big team in other esports. They managed to pick up Patrick Holtzman. So either they're going to pick up a couple more drivers or we might see a new face as well.
Well, we're down into the final 3.5 minutes of qualifying here, so we'll just pay our attention to this at the moment then. So it's SimiCube, Inex, Racing Blue are in pole position provisionally at the moment, ahead of Core Sim Racing Black by 900ths of a second, ahead of the Inex Racing Red car in third place, with VRS Sport in fourth. Most drivers have completed their laps here. We've just got the odd one or two out on track still, just trying to improve their times. And really, qualifying round here, Randy, how important is it to get a good qualifying position for the start of this race?
I think this is probably the most important qualifying of the entire season, because first things first, it's one of the shorter tracks, and with the way the slipstream works, it is very difficult to jump your way forward. It's not one of those tracks where you can kind of have a piss poor qualifying and then talent your way up the field based on speed. Because of the draft, because of the slipstream, because you're going to see packs of cars, it makes things very, very difficult with moving your way up. And on top of that, you're going to be needing to save fuel just a little bit when you want to go as far as you can on these first two stints to have as short of a third stop as you can. You need to ensure that you hit the hour, and it's hard to make your way up a field while fuel saving. And there could be some pit strategy that comes into play in that regard, but I honestly think that in terms of all the tracks that we have, this is the most important to qualify well on. And oh yeah, you can't forget about that first chicane as well. It's always nice to be in the first few cars going through that chicane rather than being the 50th car that's going to run through it.
I did a few sprint races around here a couple of weeks ago in the GT3s, and going into that turn one chicane is you take a breath in and then come to a complete stop if you're near the back. So that's what can happen.
Then if you have our sort of luck, you end up facing the wrong way.
Yeah, absolutely. That's for sure. But Connery, what are the things that you're looking at for this race? What are the things that you're really looking forward to with this event today?
Yeah, the first lap is going to be absolutely crucial. We were just talking about that first chicane, how sketchy it can be coming down through there. We had that big incident at the start of the Sebring race at the back of the field, so could potentially be history repeating itself down into there. But once drivers get themselves sorted out, starting to calm down, go single file over the next couple of laps after the start, that's when we'll see the fuel strategy start to come in, with drivers perhaps not going for moves that are entirely obvious on first look.
And well, we're looking at the lap times here, and Randy, you've made a very astute observation to us. You've just pointed it out to us on our chat, and yeah, it's a rather close field here today, isn't it?
It's a little bit competitive. It's the entire of the field right now is gapped by less than a second. Currently pole, as 30 seconds counts down, is 45.5. That's SimiCube NX Racing Blue. And the last car on track that's done a lap is Euphoria Racing GT. They're currently scored 46. They did a 46.459. So under a second, gapping the entire field. And let's be honest, we don't ever see that in qualifying here when you think about the fact that the BMWs have never had good pace here in the past. Guys have somehow, some way found some speed. Maybe the weather's helping out some of those slower cars, but in terms of balance of performance, doesn't seem like there's very much in it right now. I think this is going to be a good 3 hours.
Yeah, we're going to have a very good 3 hours indeed, so why don't we take you through your starting grid here today. And well, it is SimiCube Inex Racing Blue on pole position, ahead of Core Sim Racing Black in second place. And third place then, for Simicube Inex Racing Red. It's a really good day and qualifying for Inex team. VRS Quantum Sport in 4th place with VRS Trans-Tasman Racing. Great result for them in qualifying in 5th, with TTL Esports in 6th place, your winners from round number 1. Team 33 in the Mercedes are in 7th place with VRS Quanda Simsport number 1 in 8th. Odox Motorsports, they're in 9th place with Pure Racing Team Red, your joint championship leaders, in 10th place. Further down, Dream Factory 11th with Gym Racing GTR Centre Pink, in 12th with Gym Racing GTR Centre Yellow in 13th, and your other joint championship leaders, FA Racing G2 Logitech G in 14th place with Esther Racing Team. We've seen how they've moved through in races in the first 2 rounds. 15th with Odox Motorsport Samsung Pro in 16th. Thrustmaster Movano Red 17th with Pure Racing Team Black in 18th place. 19th for the number 18 VRS Quantum Sim Sport car, and 20th for Gym Racing GTR Centre White. The rest of your field coming up on screen there. And Randy, it's a bit of a mixed up one. We're used to seeing a couple other teams up there at the front, but this one is going to be an interesting one, and Inex are looking in a very strong position here for the race.
Definitely are. I think this is the best qualifying we've seen from Inex in a while. I think probably from season 1 of this championship, when they had all three of their cars sweep the podium at the 6-hour Spa race. I don't think we've seen Inex quite qualify this well. So for them having 2 cars in the top 3 is phenomenal. VRS Quantum Sim Sport is also representing better. I think this is the best kind of cumulative qualifying from them. You have that 1 car in 4th that's put on the grid by Mitchell de Jong, and then Marcus Lenderman put that number 1 VRS Quantum Sim Sport Audi in the 8th position. That's, I think, the best there. So there's some interesting teams out at the front, some different and interesting dynamics. And now we just got to set the field, get ready for 3 hours, and prepare for that first chicane. Will we all make it through, or are we going to have some dramas there early on the opening lap?
And Connery then, the key to this race, get a good first lap and just settle yourself down for the strategy.
Yeah, exactly. It's what, well, at least Justin Brunner has to be thinking about in that pole position there. Just try and get out, get away. You know, you have better fuel mileage than the Audis by being in that McLaren. You got to use that to your advantage.
Well, as the drivers head on behind the iRacing pace car, heading down towards the Parabolica. And we're getting all set for the start of 3 hours of racing around Monza here. And certainly going to be a good race. Drivers waiting patiently for that pace car to pull off to the right-hand side into the pit lane. And then it'll be Justin Brunner who will take this field to the start in round number 3 of the Virtual Racing School GT iRacing World Championship Series here on iRacing Live and RaceSpot TV. Waiting for the green light. The green flag doesn't drop yet. It's down the line. Now the green flag comes out. Away we go then. 3 hours underway here at Monza as they head down towards the Rettifilio to start with. They're going 3-4 wide further down your field. Hopefully everyone gets themselves sorted out as they head in to turn number 1 now. This first chicane, so easy to make contact round here, and we've got a car spun. And we've got multiple cars crashing into each other. We were fearing that this would happen here.
PRT Red is one of them.
And oh yeah, Pure Racing Team in the wall there. That's your championship leaders in the wall. They're having to wait for everybody to go by before they can set off here. So there's still carnage going on further down your field. But at the front then, great start from Inex Racing Blue, taking the lead here. Justin Brunner, 2nd place for that Coanda Simsport 8 car. Of course, Sim Racing Black dropping down from the start down to 3rd place, and the Inex Racing Red in 4th with TTL Esports Joshua Rogers in 5th place as they go through the 2nd Lesmo down towards the Ascara chicane for the first time. Well, turn 1, we feared that it would happen, and it did happen. Blackstar Racing, they're already taking a tour back to the pits. They're going to be out of this race straight away here, down to the Ascara chicane. First lap of this event. And the action packed all the way through. Maximilian Beneke at the back of the field, just trying to get back up to running and trying to recover anything out of this race, but the damage to that car will be affecting his top speed throughout this race and his fuel and everything else. Tyre wear as they head on through. End of the first lap then. It is Inex Racing Red and Racing Blue, sorry, in first place. Second place for VRS SimSport number 8. Corson Racing Black in third. That's the top 3 of this race as they head down towards the first chicane once again, Randy.
They're already doing it. Fuel saving from that VRS SimSport number 8 car. Mitchell de Jong lifted about 200 meters early going into that first braking zone. But I took a look at that first incident on the replays, and I have to question Jesus Cecilia behind the wheel of that Odox Motorsport car. He's the one who got into your championship leader, that Pure Racing Team Red car, and it didn't even happen to the chicane. It happened after the chicane. They were stacked up, and Jesus pretty much just kept his foot in it and flat out, no other way to say it, turned back Benecke and Pure Racing Team Red car. Jesus Cecilia's driving standards have been called into question in the past, and as far as I'm concerned, he just dumped one of the championship leaders. The second time we've seen him do that in the VRS GT iRacing World Championship competition. Also had a run-in with Coanda at Brands Hatch a couple seasons ago. So for Jesus Cecilia, I think needs to take the blinders off and start thinking about these as 3-hour races sometime soon.
Yeah, we saw the replay there. He just got up into the back of that Pure Racing Team Red car and lifted the back wheels off the track. That's what spun it round. And it's almost as if he didn't let off the throttle on the exit, as we see also on that replay of the other incident further back there. Various cars getting involved in that one, and there were still shenanigans going on as they headed out. But there you can see that Pure Racing Team Red car stuck in the gravel trap. And that was it. That's it. Day compromised straight away. But Connery, opening lap, we've seen some drama, and this has thrown the championship wide open here. And FA Racing G2, the co-leaders in the championship, on the 12th place. 12th place at the moment. But they're going to be maybe thinking of the slipstream and getting the fuel saving done.
Yeah, dare we say huge championship implications, maybe? As actually Benecke's gone around again. He's gone around again in the Parabolica. Contact with another car there. That was of the Evolution Racing Team 27 there, trying to wrestle the inside line away was Benecke, but there was door-to-door contact, and Benecke's around again.
Yeah, well, look at the replay there. Benecke down the inside, a little tap on the inside. Around he goes at the Parabolica. Maybe pushing a little bit too hard there, Connery, to try and gain some positions back, but it's turned out worse for them.
Yeah, it has. So this is going to be hugely on the back foot now for Pure Racing Team Red. I don't know if you can recover all that much from this race now. He has to really, really put the work in.
It certainly does. And, well, back to live action then on the screen. And it's your leaders coming out of the second Lesmo then. And it's a group of 4. They've seemed to have made a little bit of a breakaway from the Inex Racing red car. DTL eSports at the back of that one, down to 4th place in this one. So they've made that move on this lap as Joshua Rogers. He made it down towards turn number 1. Don't forget live scoring and timing is available. Just visit RaceSpot.tv/timing to keep up to date with everything that's going on in this race, and also get social with us here at RaceSpot. You can do that on Facebook, facebook.com/RaceSpot TV, and on Twitter as well, where we've got Jack Styles running the social media for us today. So keep up to date with everything that's going on in various ways, and get interactive with us as well. As we're heading towards turn number 1 once again, we're getting almost just over 5 minutes of this race gone here. It's your leaders still Justin Brunner in that Inex Racing blue car. Connor SimSport, second place Mitchell de Jong. We saw de Jong, Brandy, in that Sebring race have to work his way through that contra strategy, and it worked so well here. Today, you wouldn't imagine him doing any contra strategy with him being so far up the field.
So the worst thing you can do here to race like Monza is overthink it. I think you need to do things pretty much by the book, as simple as you can. If you're going to do the double stint, maybe save it for the middle stint, because that's the really big thing for that Coanda car. Is we know that Mitchell tends to have phenomenal pace, but it's sort of the second driver we've seen that car kind of struggle with just a little bit. We saw them go with that at Sebring, where they put a driver in for the middle stint, and then Mitchell basically went flying through the field later on in the race and Didn't quite pan out the way they would have wanted, but still ended up quite good for them. Because of that, they're still sort of in it for the championship hunt. They also ran an interesting strategy at Bathurst, so they're the only team to attempt the triple. Still, we got a big incident for third place running car, Ricardo Castelletto. He gets sent around in a Ascari, not sure what caused this. He just got sideways on the entrance. We know you're going to be trimming the wings out here at Monza, and well, Josh Rogers pretty much had nowhere to go, and he absolutely drilled that core black machine.
Yeah, look at it on replay then. He got Squirrel 8, lost control, and Josh Rogers had nowhere to go really. And bang into the back of Castelletto. A lot of damage to the back of that Audi there for Sim Racing Black, and he had to be so patient. And now he's only just got going again out of the exit of Ascari. So absolute nightmare for Castelletto after qualifying so well in this race here, Connery. And that's just seen them drop right to the back of the field here in this one, right down to 44th, behind Max Benecke in the Pure Racing Team red car.
And you know which team is absolutely laughing right now? That's going to be VRS Coanda Simsport number 8, because, well, you basically had most of your championship contenders have multiple issues during the course of this race. You had PRT Red have those issues early on. You've now had Sim Racing Black and TTL Esports get themselves involved in an incident. You've had FA Racing G2 have a horrible qualifying. Things are looking very, very good for Coanda this early on.
Certainly is. Your two leaders, though, they've got a bit of a break on now. 2.5 seconds between second and third place. So those two, they just need to work together and pull forward and get that gap out front to really make any strategy work here, and to give themselves a little bit of leeway as well. But then you've got the pack behind them then, third down, and it's all the way down to about 15th place, just in a queue here. And interested to see one of those BMWs in there, the Gym Racing GTR Centre yellow car. So obviously the BMW not struggling quite as much as we would have imagined in this event here today, Randy.
Certainly isn't. They seem to have found some top speed, and that's, you know, through the first 2 seasons of this championship here at Monza, we've seen the BMWs typically struggle. So for someone like Gym Racing to have one of them in the top 10 and the second one running in 11th and the third one running in 15th, they have found some speed in that front engine car. And you also have another BMW in the mix as well, Tommaso Carla in the Movano Red. So someone somehow has figured out how to make this car quick around Monza, and I think the teams running it are going to be very, very happy about that. As far as Mercedes go, let's take a look at some of the other manufacturers. Right now there's one of them that's running in the top 6. That's that ex-Husingfield Core Motorsports car that's now just Team 33, or Team, because hashtags break our overlays. He's running in that 6th position. Ferraris are doing decently as well. There's one of them currently sitting in 3rd, but the Ferraris and the Mercedes are kind of the underrepresented manufacturer in this championship, and you got to go all the way back to 23rd to find that next Ferrari. That's Jared Filsell from the VRS Trans-Tasman Racing Machine, but they've gotten into some drama and there's heavy damage on the front of that Ferrari.
Yeah, certainly is. And well, they did qualify further up the field. They did qualify in 5th, so they've had dramas, as you say. Got caught up in that Ascari chicane incident, I do believe, and that's what's dropped them down a little bit. TTR, in fact, had a spin at turn number 1 on that one. So yeah, that was what. Oh yes, of course, that's what the Pure Racing Team car was avoiding at the start then, and that's what caused all sorts of shenanigans going on. So TTL not having the best of starts to this race, very early into this race, just 10 minutes into this one here, as they're heading down to the Parabolica once again. Your two leaders sticking close together, but I tell you what, Jack Sedgwick has actually been closing up a little bit here, Connery, on this lap. Because it was about 2.3 seconds was the gap between second and third. It's now down to just under 1.8 seconds.
Yep, it is, and we'll perhaps see a representation of that as they head their way across the line. Yes, it's a 47.4 for NX Racing Red compared to a 47.8 and a 47.9 for your two race leaders right now. So we can expect that NX Racing Red car to just lock onto the back of the leading pair and make this a 3-car scrap for the race lead at this moment in time. And we'll just see if the likes of the Coanda number 1 car, the likes of TTL Esports and, of course, Team 33, if they can also lock onto the back and not let that leading pair get away.
Well, the thing is here, Randy, is that, okay, Jack Cedric is closing up to those leaders, but he's bringing everyone along with him, isn't he? That's the thing. He's giving that bridge. But as we've got side-by-side action between Pure Racing Team Black and Esther have actually, I believe, have just made the position on them. So that's a change of positions for Pure Racing Team Black and for Esther, with Marin Cholak once again having a good start to the race. Not the best qualifying, but a good start. But as I say, that NX Racing red car is actually bridging the gap and giving those behind a slipstream to pull themselves forward and bring the pack back into this race here.
Jack Cedric's pace is simply phenomenal right now. The fact that he's out there running half a second quicker than those leaders without a slipstream is quite impressive. Now, granted, we know that Mitchell de Jong in that Coanda number 8 is fuel saving hard. Everyone else behind doesn't seem to be doing much the same whatsoever, and Jack Cedric is certainly flying that flag of, you know what, we're just going to basically put our foot down and run this as quickly as we can. So I'm trying to get that Italian manufacturer up in front here at the Italian racing course, and the most famous Italian racing course for sure. Certainly trying his hardest. Let's see what happens this time through. 7 for the leaders. Jack Cedric's going to go to a 47.2, so still reeling him in by about half a second every single time they go around this place. Just super rapid there from that number 10 machine, that SimCube NX Racing Red. Only thing I have to think of is driving like this without the slipstream currently has not yet caught them, is what's this going to do for his fuel numbers through this first stint.
Well, this is it. We know definitely the Audi's going to be fuel saving heavily, which is why that second place car is just sat parked on the rear bumper of that NX Racing blue car of your race leader. But that Ferrari is it's not really been that much of a runner in this championship so far this season in the first 2 rounds. But here, it just seems to suit that car. It does have a relatively good top speed. Connery does that Ferrari, and Jack Cedric is just getting the most out of this car, using every inch and a little bit more of the track here today.
Yeah, he is, and well, that Ferrari, you did say it does have quite a good straight line, good amount of straight line speed, and it also isn't suffering with the ballast issues that the Audis have to deal with. So that car is going to be lighter than these Audis, going to have a little bit more straight line speed as well. So it could be looking good for those Ferrari teams in the field right now. SimCube NX Racing Red is one of them, but you do have to go back quite far to find others because they've been involved in incidents over the course of this race. The likes of VRS Trans-Tasman Racing down the field there in a Ferrari is actually, there's a little bit of a battle around them. That's Odox Motorsports, Samson and Radicals Online just having a bit of a scrap coming off the Ascari chicane. That is for P number 25 overall.
Yep, so battling throughout the field. There's also Esther is not getting away from Pure Racing Team Black, and Damien McPhee putting the pressure on. They've dropped back from the cars in front, so the first 11 are pretty much all together, and in fact we've got a little bit side by side. The Team 33 car and Dream Factory as well, sorry, is making moves on Odox Motorsports. Jesus Cecilia, so a little bit of change of positions further down. Thrustmaster Movano Red really on the back bumper of that Pure Racing Team Black car, and he's going to try and go the long way around in that BMW, and if he can hold that line here, he's going to have the inside line for the next chicane heading down. And do you know what? I think Pure Racing Team there, Randy, have said have the place. Oh, a little bit of contact.
No, they haven't. No, they haven't. So for Tommaso Carlo, he managed to just slip through, but Damien McPhee with that little bit of damage is, I think, struggling on the top speed, and well, he made it very tight into that second chicane, didn't he? Through the first Lesmo, they're going to go, and now the downforce for that BMW is going to help out. And look, if you look at that, Tommaso Carlo has already stretched a little bit of a gap while out in front of them. Marin Cholak is doing a good job of stretching away from them as well. I think the top speed of that Audi is somewhat hindered, and now it's going to be Alex Arana in that Jim Racing BMW is going to have a go into the Ascari chicane, into the braking zone, and hard on the brakes, late on the brakes goes that BMW. He's going to be able to slip through. Damien McPhee had a little bit of overspeed through the Ascari chicane, but had to lift out of it, couldn't carry the speed through it. That BMW was right in the way. The question I have, though, here, Paul, is that if you do well, if you're right now Jack Cedric, that NX Racing Red Ferrari certainly seems like the best Ferrari here. They win this race, they legally have to say grazie ragazzi and grande macchina, right?
Yeah, I think it's in the contract of every person who drives a Ferrari, isn't it, now? That you got to say that. Your leaders now, it's a 3-car train. And Jack Cedric has got right to the back of your two leaders now. Oh, we've got a car on the grass. That's a 92. And that's TTL eSports. Oh, that was incredibly close. He almost wiped out your third place car.
Nailed it.
I tell you what, that is a change of underpants if I've ever seen one. I think he's just found out that adrenaline is brown. TTL eSports, Joshua Rogers, he got a wheel on the grass, just suddenly got ducked out. I think he had a slight contact from behind, but oh, so close with Jack Cedric there, and it was the Team 33 car, wasn't it, Connery, that just made the slightest of contact there.
Yeah, as soon as I saw that TTL eSports car just break loose as a result of that tiniest of bits of contact from Alexander Voss, I saw the trajectory across the grass, and I was just going, oh no, oh no, oh no. But he narrowly misses the Inex Racing red car. Wow, I think we all need to take a breath.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great job to keep it out of everyone, but I think he didn't have much choice in the matter.
No.
And, well, what's happened
we might have
to the number 3
issues,
car?
Yeah.
What's
no, the
happened
number
to
10 car.
Number 10 car, yeah, the third place car. Second place. Yeah, the number 10 was third place. Maybe a little bit of technical problems. We'll have to wait and see how this one pans out. We'll have to just call it as we are at the moment. So your leaders, as my timing screen is showing, is Inex Racing Blue, Justin Brunner in the lead in that McLaren. Second place for the VRS Quantum Simsport, Mitchell de Jong in the Audi. Third place now as they come across the line is Marcus Lenderman in the other VRS Quantum Simsport Audi. Behind him is the Team 33 Mercedes Dream Factory in 5th, and another one of the Mercedes, and then Odox Motorsports in 6th place. We're keeping an eye out to see the telltale sign of technical problems. It's usually a bit of choice language in chat is usually what it is there, Randy, but yep, there we go. Technical problems befalling that Inex car.
That's definitely bad news for them. And I mean, you want to talk about being the luckiest in the world and then getting the short end of the stick. I mean, you narrowly avoided getting drilled by that spinning Joshua Rogers, and then you get on the wrong side of technical issues. That is I don't know. I don't think I've seen just such a swing in luck that's that heavily. I feel so bad for them.
What the iRacing gods giveth, the iRacing gods taketh away as well. As we're heading in towards the end of 20 minutes of this race. I tell you what, this opening part of this race has just flown by. There's action all over. Cars are still relatively close together as well. Okay, two leaders are just out front by about 2 seconds ahead of third place. Getting cars all just fighting themselves out into little sort of battle packs, really, aren't we, Connery? And as we have a look at the Joshua Rogers incident once again, but yeah, you see these little battle packs coming together, and
then you've got to look after that pack. You've got to look all the way back to P number 10. And that is TTL eSports, that car you saw take a trip through the grass acting like a lawnmower coming down to the red affiliate.
As we're heading down, looking, as I say, at this Nufford Park here, that TTL car. Joshua Rogers having to do a bit of a recovery drive, but he's now at the front of that little group, but he's, well, as Baron Cholak goes past him actually here, so Joshua Rogers, 11th place at the moment. He was in the top 3, battling for the top 3, should I say, when he had that little moment. But they're now dropped back. They've dropped back from 9th place, so they're not going to have that slipstream of the cars in front to be able to work themselves forward. And this is where we see, as I was mentioning earlier, Randy, this is where you see those little gaggles of cars forming now. And this is where you'll see sort of like the different parts of the race come together as we go through today.
And this is, I think, going to be where we see this first hour of this race. I mean, I think we're going to see it start to get relatively calm down here. As I say, that Merrick Golak, he's making quite the move around the outside, actually defending here from that Josh Rogers TTL car that's recovering after that spin at turn 1 where we do have this one long train of cars, but you want to start getting into a rhythm and get relatively smooth here and start moving your way forward that based on pit strategy and based on saving fuel. Let's see if Josh Rogers, though, if he's going to make a move here on Marin Kolak. He's going to look up the inside, but no, he's going to pull out of it going into the second chicane. I think the move was on there. Not sure why he would do that, but he's going to sit through the second chicane and just run through the Lesmos.
Certainly is, and well, these drivers, they're really pushing themselves. They're really fighting with themselves, and the thing is, you could end up slow everyone down really, and make yourself lose time on the cars behind, and it's so easy to do that around here at this track. And well, looking at your timing screens, which by the way you can check out eSport.tv/timing to keep up to date with everything that's going on in this race. You'll see our leaders 6 tenths of a second between them, then the little gap to third and fourth, who've got 3 tenths of a second between them, and another little gap fifth down to ninth, all covered by about a second and a half there. There's quite a good battle here between those cars, but the thing is, those guys there just now, I think they're settled into that groove now. They're saying, right, we're in a good position, do a bit of fuel saving, look after the tyres as well, and then they'll be able to make moves. As behind the BMW having a look on Joshua Rogers, Thrustmaster Movano side by side through the first chicane, and that's going to open up the door to the other BMW, Jim Racing, the white car, not able to make a move for the time being. So they're all squabbling, and all this squabbling here, Connery, as I was saying, slows each other down. It makes you lose time.
Yep, it does, and here comes Tommaso Cala around the outside this time, coming down towards the Della Roggia. Has to be so brave to make it around the outside there, so instead just backs out of that one, looks for the run through the corner instead, but is not able to get it. So that TTL Esports car definitely suffering in terms of the straight line speed, especially if you have what is the slowest car in the straight line behind you, 2 of them trying to overtake on the straights.
I'm going to bring up the fact that I've raced here a couple of weeks ago again, but I was in the BMW. It's not actually that slow. If you've got your rear wing trimmed right out and you've got your set up right in terms of making the car as slick as possible, it's only a couple of kilometres an hour slower now because it's got the drive out the corners, and it can carry more speed through corners because of its aerodynamic advantage here.
What, were you running in like a rookie league or something?
Yeah.
Okay, well that explains it. Definitely explains it. But no, the BMW, they've definitely made improvements on it. It is definitely better than what it used to be here, but it still is somewhat disadvantaged, and I'm sure this weather is somewhat helping it out as well. It being nice and cold, it can really push the limit with it on the grip on this one, but everything's sort of starting to calm down. Some fights, we still have this long train of cars. We have one from 5th back to about 10th, and then we got that long train of cars kind of in the mid-pack, but really it's just an occasional pass here or there. As actually Pure Racing Team is looking to get done on. Nope, that's Dado Opkak. Was thinking about making a move on Jonas Wollmeyer, but opted to pull out of that. That was another BMW, but for the most part, up and down the field, everyone has just sort of relegated themselves to running single file, despite how close the race currently is right now, and how much competition there is up and down the field. But meanwhile, out in front, I think the people who are really enjoying their gap are the race leaders, the Minix Racing Blue and Mitchell DeYoung in that Coinder number 8 car.
Yeah, we just saw the Thrustmaster Movano red car make the move into turn number 1 into the Rettifilia. That's a position for them up to 11th place. Then Joshua Rogers in 12th. I think another thing with that spin he had earlier on, and they put a bunch of heat through the rear tyres. Also take just a little bit of tread out of them as well. So won't quite have as long of tyre life, but it won't be too bad because he'll have been able to just cool those tyres down back to the normal racing temperature after that heart in mouth moment about 5 laps ago in this race. We are on lap 15 of this race. It is your race leaders, Inex Racing Blue, Justin Brunner in the McLaren, ahead of VRS Coinder Simsport in second, Mitchell DeYoung. Third place, VRS Coinder Simsport, Marcus Lenderman, with Team 33, Alexander Voss in 4th place. Dream Factory 5th with Odox Motorsports in 6th. Jim Racing yellow in 7th with FA Racing G2 Logitech G in 8th place. Jim Racing pink are in 9th with Esther Racing Team running out the top 10, and here comes another one of the BMWs. I tell you what, these BMWs, Connery, they're making moves down towards turn number 1, and that's 2 BMWs making overtakes for 2 different positions.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic to see as it's the battle of the runs off of the Reticuli chicane. And now, can Esther Racing Team make this pass back on the Movano red car? It doesn't look like there's a lot that Choa can do about this one, so he's not, the move isn't going to be on coming down into the De La Roja. You've also got Jim Racing white behind as well, looking very, very threatening. That BMW performing very, very well on the brakes, which is kind of half the battle coming down into some of these heavy braking zones. And, well, we've got TTL Esports on the back of this train as well, and we've also got PRT Yellow, but they haven't really been all that threatening. But these BMWs, as you say, they have been making moves.
Yeah, they certainly have, and the thing is, they're now at the front of that pack here, Connery, and they're cutting the hole in the air now for the others. So I think they're going to come up against it now, and it's going to show the lack of top speed in that BMW here. Now that Thrustmaster Movano car is at the front of that little pack.
Yeah, exactly. So this is going to be a little bit tougher now for the BMWs. They don't have the slipstreams to be able to work with, as here comes Alex Arana with the insane amount of overspeed coming down in towards the Parabolica, but doesn't decide to use it to get past the Esther Racing Team at this moment in time. A little bit squirrely coming through the middle of the apex there, as all these teams and drivers will take that characteristic wide exit of the Parabolica, trying to keep as much momentum as possible coming down this pit straight. But here comes Arana again for Jim Racing White. I think this time he might decide to head his way down towards the inside, unless he's going to save fuel. No, he's going to go down towards the inside. Battle of the late breakers between the Audi and the BMW. BMW on the inside will get through pretty easily. Ooh, that TTL Esports almost ran into the back of Esther there.
Yeah, it certainly did. The 2 Audis just seeming to be struggling a little bit there, and is this going to be a little bit the tail of the tape here, Randy? With that extra weight penalty that they've been added on for the balanced performance here today, is that just maybe showing the differences? The BMW no extra weight, whereas the Audi 40 kilograms, just starting to show maybe?
Might be. It'd be, it's one of the things you have to talk about. We mentioned fuel consumption when regarding to the Audi and how that ballast may affect it, but tire wear is also something that we need to keep in mind. And if that is going to be something that they kind of struggle with, we're about midway through this run, been racing for about 30 minutes now, and that's definitely something we need to look at. That said, there's a lot of Audis. They're still doing a good job maintaining good pace. Of course, you have that Kuwait Sport number 8 with Mitchell de Jong. He's doing a good job keeping pace with Justin Brunner, but as I say that, Mitchell dropped quite a bit through the Ascari chicane compared to that McLaren. Then, of course, running in third, you also have the Audi of Marcus Lenderman, the second running VRS Sport car that Alexander Voss has latched onto the rear of. And then you have other cars, Jesus Cecilia, who, despite moving several cars out of the way, still runs in that 6th spot. And then you have that FA GT racing car of Seb Job, who's running in that 8th spot. So some Audis seem to be doing relatively okay with this. Others may be struggling a little bit on the tires.
Certainly might be, as looking at where teams are in terms of championship standings and where they are in this race. Well, you've got the Pure Racing Team red car, 34th place, just coming around the Parabolica now. So really been a real testing period for them. You can see the damage on the rear of the car as well. So that's going to be affecting their fuel consumption, the tyre wear. Simon Fiegel comes into pit road for the Evolution Racing Team, by the way. And that's a bit of damage to the front of the car, and he's missed his pit stall as well. So easy to do at this track. You come from such a high speed onto pit road, and you've got that slippery concrete surface there on the pit apron, Connery.
Yep, you do, as I'm just trying to look to see where Evolution Racing Team managed to get that damage. It did seem that it was a good couple of laps to go, so this can't really be a scheduled stop unless they're absolutely committing to what is a 3-stop strategy here.
Well, you never know, that's for sure. Looking at the other championship contenders here, the other joint top driver teams in the championship, that FA Racing G2 car is in 9th place at the moment as they're heading around the Ascari chicane. half an hour into this race so far. But look at the team that was in third place in the championship, Core Sim Racing Black. Where on earth are they after that instant at the start? They retired. Yeah, it was that instant at the Scarish Chicane, that retired them out of this race. So that's really going to dampen their efforts here in TTL eSports as well. Another team that was up there challenging the championship, they've dropped down because of that instant at turn number 1. They're down in 13th at the moment. And well, looky here, the number 8 car, VRS SimSport, in a prime position, second place, Mitchell de Jong. And you just get the feeling here, Randy, that they're playing that long game here. They're looking at their strategy, looking at saving as much fuel and as much tyres as they can in this one. They're keeping that gap at half a second between themselves and your race leader Justin Brunner. They're happy to just sit there, and I tell you what, they'll be quids in for a good championship result if they manage to keep it here.
Definitely seems to be the case, but I don't know, I'm still sort of on edge with that Koena SimSport number 8 machine, because they've tended to struggle when it comes to putting that other driver into that machine. We know that Mac Backham, who's likely going to be the driver who gets in, who's had a pretty stout running the last couple of weeks, won the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series race at Montreal. So he's sort of on an upswing in that regard. But Mitchell de Jong has really become, in my opinion, the premier driver at Coanda in terms of his pace, not only in the McLaren in that F1 championship. We also have to think about what he's been doing in Rallycross, and he's certainly been their best GT driver in this championship as well. So for right now, for Mitchell de Jong, he's making that team look very, very good at the moment, putting that car in a great position. Question has to be, whoever's going to be getting in for that other hour, will they be able to do the same?
You look at just currently looking at the graphics of the movers and shakers. Radicals online, they've piled up through the field. They're in 19th at the moment. They started, where did they start? They started 41st. That is a great achievement, and it's in that BMW as well, Connery. We were saying wasn't really fancied around here, but quite a number of these BMWs. Okay, they've come out good because of incidents that happened early on in this race, but you've got to be there to be able to do the moves, and they're up there. A ton of positions gained at the start here, 21 positions, I believe, gained.
Yeah, it's an absolutely brilliant effort for them, and they're still looking at the amount of traffic ahead of them. Still lots more positions potentially on the cards there for Radicals Online. Currently Wyatt Goodman behind the wheel of that one as the 2 cars ahead get very, very close coming off the Rettifilio. This is Mario Bertolotti here for the Jim Racing Azzurri team, and Jonas Wallmeyer for PRT Blue. PRT Blue looking very aggressive down towards the inside for the Della Roja. Let's see if he's able to make this move. He's going to have the outside for the second apex, but manages to squeak his way through. Here comes Radicals Online to pick themselves up yet another spot if they can make it down the inside of the first Lesmo, and I think Bertolotti's not really going to fight that one.
Yeah, you don't really see that many moves happening to Lesmo 1, that's for sure. Through Lesmo 2 now, and that's moved that Radicals car up into 18th place in this race. So 2 places lost for Jim Racing Azzurri. Mario Bertolotti, not the best of laps here, and looking ahead now, that Pure Racing Team Blue car, Jonas Wallmeyer, he'll be happy to be at the front of the pack, but he won't be happy in terms of his strategy. So I wouldn't be surprised if Wyatt Gooden makes a move here that Pure Racing team car doesn't fight them off too much in this one. Everybody's settled down now, it appears. Everyone's just got into their groove here, Randy. This is now where everyone's starting to talk with the teammates, talk with the spotter or the crew chief, and look at the numbers and see, right, what numbers are we getting out of the car at the moment? Where will that get us to in terms of fuel? And where do we need to be to maximise the strategy?
Well, that's definitely one of the things people are talking about, but Radical is continuing to move their way forward. They're saying, you know what, Jonas Wallmeyer, I want to put you in the rearview mirror, and they waste no time in doing so. Immediately go down to the inside of that first chicane and move them up into the 17th position. Now the question is going to be is how are they going to be doing without any slipstream out in front of them, because they're going to be leading this pack. And there's a couple things to keep in mind when you talk about strategy, Paul. We saw Evolution Racing Team a season ago when they came here for the season opener round 2. They had what is, in my opinion, the best race for that team on the World Championship level. They had a couple of podium positions rounded out, were close to coming up with a win, and they did it with an off strategy, making this race a 3-stop race. And basically, in order to do that, you just don't fuel save whatsoever. You have to do a little bit of a short fill. You pit somewhere around. You generally want to push to the hour through this first stint because you can take the fuel on for free, and then you're going to do a shorter second stint, and then basically end the race with a pretty short stop as well. We saw Evolution Racing Team do that in the season opener of season 2 of this championship, and it worked out. That was somewhat warmer weather, so not sure if the same thing will be able to play it out. The other thing to talk about in terms of strategy here, Paul, is that there's a lot of cars that have damage when you look up and down the field. You might see a crumpled front bumper. You might see a little bit of a crumpled rear wing. That's likely, not only will that be affecting some of these cars' top speed, more importantly, that's going to be affecting fuel economy. So when you're talking about that Pure Racing Team blue car of Jonas Wollmeyer that we just saw Wyatt Gooding get around, look at the right side of that rear wing. It is crumpled just a little bit. Going to be looking at affected top speed and potentially affected fuel economy. That may mean that these guys cannot push to the hour, and it may force them into turning this into a 3-stop race.
Speaking of Evolution Racing Team, Simone Maria Marchena is on pit road at the moment, and he's been sat there for about 1 minute and 10. That's usually about the time for a full stint, but they're going to be carrying on sitting there, so they're obviously getting repairs done to their car here today, and it's been an absolute disaster for your Evolution Racing Team because the 28 car is sat on pit road as well. So those two cars down on pit road at the moment. Their other car, the 27 car, is in 35th place as well, with the 30 car in 29th. So 4 cars in this race for the Evolution Racing Team here, Connery. And I tell you what, Brendan O'Brien will not be a happy man today.
Yeah, he won't be happy at all, especially with how things have been going for him and his team, and of course his countrymen as well. So we'll see what happens with that one. As actually saw the team, that was actually okay. I just saw one of the GTR Center, the Jim Racing GTR Center cars have a couple of issues, but they seem to have managed to get that sorted out. So it's actually looking back towards Simicube, Enex, and Esther, and TTL eSport. So this pack just outside of your top 10. PJ Sturgis currently leading in that Enex Racing yellow BMW, with Esther Racing in the Audi and TTL Esports in the Audi. There's a train of Audis apart from Jim Racing GTR Center black behind. So it seems a bit surreal to me that these BMWs are currently leading these packs. That seems to be not natural.
Well, I mean, you look at it in front of the that Enex yellow car. You've got Thrustmaster Movano Red and Jim White are out front, and they've pulled a gap over that group as well, as in fact your Jim Pink car has had to make a pit stop there. So obviously issues for them, and having to make a pit stop early in this one. 20 minutes remaining in this hour, so only 40 minutes into a stint. They've been having issues with their car, so they've taken the car back to the pits, and obviously going to do a little bit of a driver change there, and hopefully try and work out some.
Well, no, that's technical issues.
Yeah,
it's technical issues for them. Not exactly sure what happened there, but there was definitely some issues there as he was going down the front straightaway. So not sure what the problem is for Jim Pink, but also I think we've just had a change of position out near the front of the field with Alexander Voss in team number 33. He just got the move done on Marcus Lenderman, so moved that car up into third, and Lenderman has fallen back quite a bit behind that Mercedes, so maybe starting to stretch the legs through the second half of the stint is that Mercedes. We're seeing the front engine cars, the BMWs are showing good pace deeper in the field, but the Mercedes are actually doing relatively well. I think about where we saw these cars running in the early parts of the season at Bathurst and of course at Sebring. We saw a good run from the Husingfeld Core Motorsports group before the Bass Exodus. They were still part of the team at that point. They saw them have a decent run, but that Dream Factory car was kind of meh, and they definitely didn't have good runs at Bathurst either. Right now, looking at both your Mercedes, currently running 3rd and 5th on the racetrack, so balancing performance, definitely helping them out a big deal.
Yeah, it certainly is helping them out a lot here today, and it's always good to see Dream Factory doing so well in this series. Get these mix-up of teams in this race, and this is... Connery, I know you mentioned it on social media, I believe it was yesterday, saying that Monza, it always seems to mix things up a little bit here with the way this track is, and it's certainly providing that today.
Yeah, it is. We've seen drivers and teams get themselves nearer the front of the field, whereas in previous races they've been solidly in that mid-pack area, and well, that's just what's happened to the likes of iRacing Blue, which have still been competitive in that McLaren over the past couple of rounds, but they haven't found themselves at the front in those races. But because it's Monza, because it's the McLaren, it's seemingly, it's seemingly written before the race that they will be leading at this stage. We're taking pole position, but VRS kind of Simsport running very, very well. They haven't really had a great start to the season either. They had an absolutely horrible Bathurst the first round of the season, getting themselves involved in multiple incidents, but this is their opportunity now to get a very, very good points haul, and who knows, with how the points might work out, they may be championship leaders at the end of this one, depending on where the likes of iRacing GT and TTL finish.
Connery, is it bad that I like that McLaren because of the flames it looks out when it's getting off power?
It's not bad at all.
You could cook a marshmallow on those, I tell you. It's always when it's all off power, when you're off throttle, and it's just firing off all the burning off all the unused petrol fumes that are in that as it's going down the pit straight once again. And you always feel that it's almost like a James Bond car here. You know, it's a method of defending from the cars behind here, Connery, as they go into turn one. There it is again. Just flames. The flames everywhere.
Yeah, it's every schoolboy's dream to have a car that just spits fire out the back. And if you're wondering if that is realistic, yes, it's very realistic.
Yes,
Go and see these cars in real life. It's basically like a flamethrower out the back.
Looking further back, 9th and 10th place. Thrustmaster Movano red and Jim.
We got a car off at the first chicane behind. This is Josh Rogers.
Oh dear, it's not been his day today for Josh Rogers. We'll have a look at that one. Yeah, it was on the exit there, through the left-hand part. The back end just kicked around a little bit, got unsettled on the curb, had to take to the gravel. Luckily, there's a bit of runoff there to be able to take to, but always risky taking off to the gravel there because you could easily just lose control with the bumpiness of that gravel there, Andy.
Yeah, definitely sort of, I think he awkwardly took that left part of that chicane. You do want to run a huge amount of the curves where you can through that first chicane, and maybe the damper settings on that TTL Audi not quite ideal for the way it came off. Sort of high center of the car. I think he just likely got the chicane just that little bit wrong, and it basically spat him out to the right side of the track, but well done by him to keep it off the barrier. Just took to the gravel, dropped a couple positions, but most importantly is still running, and let's be real, probably has a little bit of PTSD from that backward spin to the first chicane, where I think he's expecting to drill that NX car.
Well, it appears we've got yet more technical problems here. Jesus Cecilia, we've lost him now in this one. Car 15.
Sure that wasn't the incident limit?
No.
Oh, that was mean.
Wow.
That was, yeah. Yeah, that's all. iRacing, if you've got any complaints, please address them to Randy Cheneth. That's Randy Cheneth, and not anybody else in this commentary booth here, Connery. We like to separate ourselves from Randy's comments from time to time.
Yes, we do. As I was just looking at a couple of changes for position in and around that top 10 area. This pack of cars involving Movano Red, you've got Jim Racing White, and you've also got iRacing GT. They had a bit of a scrap heading down into the Reticuli chicane. In fact, both of those cars currently ahead of iRacing G2. Well, they were behind coming down into the braking zone for the first turn.
Yep, so looking at those the BMWs are coming through, and they're doing a good job so far. And Sebastian Job, I tell you what, I think with him, he'll be happy to have those cars go past him because it gives him a little bit of slipstream here now to work with to do a bit more fuel saving here, Andy.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the big things. You just sort of tuck in and work and really work that slipstream. We've seen that from the race leaders pretty much the whole way through this entire first 3/4 of the stint. We're starting to get near the end of it, and this is sort of where we might see if anyone's not going for that typical two-stop strategy, they want to push it out to a 3-stopper. I would expect pit stops likely coming down, people hitting pit road potentially a little bit early. Typically you want to push as long as you can, but sometimes people will opt to hit pit lane a little bit on the early side. So just look for potential pit stops here on the early side of the hour, and then also keep in mind people who just flat out missed the fuel economy and didn't quite get the number right. And also, look at the last couple laps for that NX Racing Blue machine. He has gapped Mitchell de Jong. It's now 1.2 second lead versus basically just the few tenths we've seen through this entire first stint.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that, Randy. You took the words out of my mouth. That tells you how much we've worked together, that you're able to read my mind in that one. Yeah, Justin Brunner.
Wow, my commentary game is really diminishing then.
Justin Brunner has really turned it up here in this one. 1.2 seconds is the gap between him and second place Mitchell de Jong. So de Jong trying to hang on here, but I tell you what, I think he is really starting to struggle now with that car and to keep up with him, and he's losing out those 0.2 or so every lap, these last couple of laps, and the last 3 laps you could definitely see that he's been in and around that 0.2 of a second mark, that he's been losing out. And now, Connery, because the gap's growing to such a point, he'll have lost the slipstream as well.
Yep, so he can't fuel save as effectively as he otherwise could have sitting in the slipstream. So this is the point now where kind of have to be thinking, okay, are we actually okay to hit the hour mark on this stint? And then you got to worry about hitting the hour mark on the second stop as well to get yourself to the end of the race. So this is going to hurt Coanda just a little bit, that they're not able to lock onto the back of the NX Racing blue car, but I think they're going to be pretty far ahead of everyone else in terms of the fuel strategy anyway, with how long they spent behind Brunner.
But looking behind as well, third and fourth, Marcus Lenderman doing a good job keeping with that Mercedes in the second of the VRS SimSport cars, and able to keep that gap to around 0.3 of a second is Justin Brunner now. 0.3 of a second faster on that last lap was Justin Brunner in the lead. So yeah, that slipstream is definitely gone now, and he's now able to just pull away at will at the front there. He's absolutely on fire, and I tell you what, I think his team has said, right, what's your fuel like? Let's have a look at the numbers. Start turning up. Let's really push on and get that gap out a little bit to give us a bit of breathing room when it comes to that first pit stop here. If they're confident that they can get to the hour here now and to turn up the pressure on the cars behind, they're in a really good position here, Randy.
Yeah, they definitely are, and I would suspect that's likely what's happened, that they've probably seen that their fuel number is good, and that they can stretch over the 1 hour mark here through this first stint, and they've pretty much just let Brunner loose here to be able to run away. But keep in mind, for Mitchell de Jong, if he's still doing a bit of fuel economy, a bit of fuel saving, he might be able to still close that gap back down and in, because even though Justin Brunner is going to be quick through these last few laps, if that is indeed what's happened, if Mitchell can keep the fuel consumption low, they'll have a bit of a shorter fill when they're on pit road and likely leave their box a second or so early. So I suspect that it...
Don't forget, you can get social with us here today. We're on Twitter and we're also on Facebook. Check us out, and if you're using Twitter, interact with us there. Use the hashtag iRacingWCS. That's iRacingWCS is the hashtag you want to use for that one to get involved in this one. Jack Stiles is keeping an eye on the social media for us today and providing you with updates on Twitter as well. So if you're not able to be looking at the screen, at least you can keep an eye on it. And of course, at Real VRS, of course, Twitter account you want to get involved with as well on this one today, with this VRS Virtual Racing School GT iRacing World Championship Series race, round 3 here at Monza, and it's certainly been an interesting first hour here. And it's Justin Brunner who's just pulling out lap after lap now at the front there. 2.2 seconds is the gap between him and second place VRS SimSport Mitchell de Jong. Third place Team 33 Alexander Voss behind the wheel. It's about 5.5 seconds behind that second place driver, but he's got the number 1 VRS SimSport car right behind him there. So that number 1 car doing a lot of fuel saving here as we're heading towards that first pit stop cycle. So we'll be keeping an eye on everything, make sure that it's all going well. What we'll do in fact then is just take you a lap on board with that number 1 car, then give you some RaceSpot fan immersion. There we go then. A lap on board with Marcus Lenderman in that VRS Quanta Sim Sport car, 4th place at the moment. We were watching them because they were right behind that Team 33 car, not able to get any closer, but quite frankly at the moment, Connery, they're just maybe content with just sticking behind for the time being, get as much of that fuel saving and draft as possible as we're heading towards that hour mark now.
Yeah, exactly. This is sort of the first very, very crucial stage of the race. We're about 5 minutes from hitting that 2 hours to go mark. So if anyone can get, well, even vaguely near that, or preferably over that margin before they come down towards the lane, that would be very beneficial for them indeed. We've pretty much seen almost the entirety of the fuel saving on this first stint. So it's just a matter of who has fuel saved enough.
Absolutely. And well, we're heading towards that that strategy call. We're going to start seeing who has done what. But the thing is, Justin Brunner, Randy, has been out front since the drop of the green flag here. He's got 3.2 seconds at the front, and you just feel that he did that fuel saving in the first 40-45 minutes of the race, and now he's just getting the gap up so that he can then just have that little bit longer pit stop perhaps.
Definitely seems like that could be the situation, but we're going to have to keep an eye on it. He's opened up quite the gap. It's gone from basically nothing through the majority of the stint now, just randomly out to 3.2 seconds. So either Mitchell is still in hardcore fuel economy mode, trying to get an insane fuel number through this first stint, or Justin Brunner is just a god of the McLaren to simply put OP at Monza, which would you expect. Just now, we do have to start keeping an eye on pit road, though, because while the hour is what everyone's talking about, what everyone is expecting, it is not out of the realm of possibility that people miss it. We're already seeing it. Hayden Burns, Vendaval Sim Racing Yellow, they are hitting pit road right now. They cannot go to the hour mark. They are a full 5 minutes short on that front, so it's going to have to be a two-stopper unless someone can save an immense amount of fuel later on in this race. But if you cannot stretch it to the hour through the first stint, you're going to have the most draft that you are the entire race. Doesn't look good for you through the entire rest of the show.
Yeah, so those guys, they're going to have to just change the strategy up here and maybe not put a full fuel tank in here and go for a little bit of not quite a full fuel stop, get the go away. 24.3 seconds, so that's definitely going to be a 3-stop strategy there, you would imagine, for them, Connery, with a pit stop that short, taking no tyres either.
Yeah, exactly. So they'll get themselves off and away will Vendaval Sim Racing Yellow. So they've pretty much commit themselves to this 3-start strategy. We've also got the car of the 42 of Vendaval Sim Racing Blue also down towards the lane as well. Let's see if anyone joins them. As we see Dream Factory, they head past pit lane. So do Jim Racing, so do Movano. So I don't think many people will try to even commit to
we got a group.
I think
got a group. Kolak, and we got Radical Sim Racing, Radicals Online. Why couldn't hit the lane?
Yep. So now we're starting to see these.
Coanda cars in the lane. Bootsaloop. Sorry.
Yeah. We're starting to see these teams that have been trying to push it and trying to get to the hour mark. We're 2 minutes short of the hour here, and well, these drivers are just finding that they've not quite saved enough fuel. Or maybe they've seen that they have saved enough fuel, but they've seen that there's a gap that they will fall into here, Randy, because they'll have their team looking at the track map and say, right, we want that little bit of clean air perhaps, or be able to fall in just behind a driver that's maybe just as quick as us to be able to then get that pick up that slipstream once again.
No, there's no way. If you're pitting right now, even if you have the fuel economy to go extra laps, you have to do it here at Monza because it could pay off in dividends later on. You never want to leave a little bit of fuel economy on the table as Justin Brunner gets around Lucas Jetstad and MSP Phoenix BMW. So pit road becoming a very busy place, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of our leaders may struggle just a little bit. Now, those who are going to come down this lap are in a slightly better situation because they, based on the pit lane delta as well as the amount of time you'll spend in your box, you will go over the hour after you come down pit road on this coming lap. he still will not be in the greatest of scenarios. Let's see what Justin Brunner does. He's taking a little bit of a tighter line through that final corner. Race leader hits the box right here. Mitchell de Jong, he's going to come into the pit stops right here as well. Alexander Voss takes a regular line off that final corner. He's going to go another lap. Marcus Lenderman is going to come in. Looks like Diego from a Dream Factory as well. Jim is going to go another lap as well. So a bit of a split strategy here, and I really, really like this for that team number 33 car, being able to stretch this another lap. This could pay off in dividends later on. It may not seem like a big thing now, but one lap of better fuel economy, especially if they can do this on the next lap, the next stint as well, I think it's going to be a huge, huge factor for these guys.
Yeah, it certainly is. So Brunner then on pit lane. He's pointing his car at the pit exit because it is a tight pit exit here if you're at the far end of the garages on this pit road. So getting that car out the pits is always a little bit of struggle unless you angle the car, which he has done. Interesting to see from those further down as well. So Esther and Radicals both took full fuel. Glacier North, number 7, JJ Nylander, only took 30 seconds of fuel in that pit stop, so got committing to a 3-stop strategy there. Justin Brunner coming out alongside the 26 car. Side by side out of pit road. That's not what Justin Brunner would have wanted to have seen there.
That's I think going to be a 3-stopper from the NX car because Mitchell's still on pit road.
Well, Brunner is out and Dream Factory are out as well. And I tell you what, I think Mitchell de Jong has done tyres as well. Yep. This is going to be interesting, Connery. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of side by side off the lane once again. This is Trans-Tasman Racing versus Coanda as they get themselves a little bit too close for comfort there coming off the lane. But after you, there we go. Trans-Tasman Racing gets themselves off and away with the VRS Coanda Simsport number 8 car sitting in behind there. It was a little bit of a confusing situation there as they file back into traffic. We'll have Team 33 come down on towards the lane, and that extra lap could play a huge part in getting them more towards that first spot instead of sitting in the likes of P number 3, P number 4, as we see the rest of your cars come down towards the lane now. Yeah. That did take that one extra lap.
Yeah, I was just about to say those cars that take an extra lap. So Team 33, Jim, FA Racing. That's interesting to see FA Racing able to take that extra lap. TTL eSport as well. They're on pit road, so to a Pure Racing Team Yellow, Jim Black, SDK Apex Racing UK, Simicube Inex Racing Yellow, Vanderbilt Sim Racing White, and Thrustmaster Movano Yellow, all on pit road now. So it's a bit of a tale of 2 pit stops here, one after the other, as coming down the pit road is still that Thrustmaster Movano Yellow. They haven't hit their pit stall yet, but Inex, here we are. Justin Brunner coming down the pit straight at the moment, crosses the line, and is back out in front then. Who's going to be classed as his second? We'll have to wait and see for it all. He's got a gaggle of cars coming out of pit road once again. And, well, out of pit road they go then. And look at this, Dream Factory, second place overall. But look at that, third place for Jim Racing Yellow. Great switch around there. Fourth place for FA GT Racing, but of course, some cars have taken tyres in that pit stop. You look at VRS Coanda Simsport, Mitchell de Jong taking tyres. So too Team 33, Kev Shuby actually has jumped into that car. Marcus Lenderman also took tyres. Jim Racing White, they took tyres, as well as Thrustmaster Movano Red, Pure Racing Team Yellow, and Jim Racing Black. So there's some of the many cars that have actually taken tyres on that first pit stop here, Randy. And now we're going to see how that strategy pans out. Fresher tyres for this middle stint here could do them well heading towards the final, heading towards that final pit stop here for some of those cars. And VRS Coanda Simsport with Mitchell de Jong will be hoping for something similar to last round.
Definitely could. It's something we need to keep an eye on, is who's going to be going for that shorter pit stop as well in terms of that shorter pit strategy. Because remember, we had some people who came down towards pit road a bit on the early side, and I'm not sure if they're going to be able to make this on a full 2-stopper. The cold weather is going to speed up the lap times and make that difficult. So maybe look for drivers that come down and, teams that have jumped a lot of spots, it's likely they would not have taken tires and they would do a short fill. So when the timing eventually updates, when the race leaders start circulating around here, that's going to be what we keep an eye on. I think Dream Factory, they could be in contention for that, as well as maybe a couple of the other teams out near the front that have jumped a lot of spots. That Radicals car, Wyatt Gooden, they may be on for that as well. But it's definitely interesting to see the tire strategy, seeing the likes of Mitchell de Jong, and of course that Team 33 car that Kei Kashubi actually got into. So they had a full stop, not only fuel and tires, they did a driver swap as well. Mitchell de Jong, VRS GT eSport, they did a full stop but did not do a driver change. So interesting to see the way the strategies are going to work out, and watching those two cars in particular perhaps run through this field as Kei Kashubi's already making moves. That's Max Benecke, who is laps down. Actually, no, he's on the lead lap, but still owes us a pit stop, unfortunately.
Yeah, Max Benecke's, no, he should have made his pit stop.
Oh, yeah, he did. I take that back. I thought he may have had an earlier stop and may have, still been out there and running.
I mean, where are they now, actually? Pure Racing Team Red 17th. But of course, there's teams that have had tyre stops involved in that one, so we'll have to wait until that second pit stop to see where they pan out towards the end of this race. But you can see the damage to the back of that Max Benecke car. But he's in a foul mood. You can tell by the body language of that car that he's not in a good mood here, as that rear wing really is taking a beating here today, and he's not good. He's going to struggle on with that car. As out of Lesmo 2 they go, and the Evolution Racing Team car just getting out of the way for the time being as they head down towards the Scara chicane. But out front, Dream Factory and Jim Racing Yellow, they're battling for position at the moment, and Jim in that BMW, they've been looking very handy around here today, Connery. They've really stepped up their pace in this event, but of course this middle stint here, we've got that mix of strategies. We're going to have to now wait out for the final pit stops to see where everyone sort of falls into place.
Yeah, we will. So, such is the excitement of the strategy games here at Monza, as both those teams and drivers will head their way down in towards the Rettifilia, but obviously Jim not close enough to be able to do anything with Dream Factory in that second place right now. So this is basically just shaking up your entire field here. You still have a pack of cars for what's P number 6 and down, and guess what? That's Radicals Online, up from P41 to P6.
Yeah, great job from Radicals so far in this one, and Wyatt Gooden doing a fantastic job here today for them. Just ahead of that TTL eSports car, Joshua Rogers, and Joshua having to twice recover from mistakes, and they certainly trying to get involved here and try and get a good run here. Esther Racing have had a driver change, by the way, and out jumped Cholak, and so they've had that driver change, that first pit stop, but with no tyre change either, Randy. So you can do that. Pit stop and driver change without tyres. But really, if you're doing that driver swap, you generally want to try and get new tyres on them. Yeah,
and that's one of the interesting things that we're talking about in terms of strategy, because I know there was a joke in the chat amongst some of the teams, and Reese Cornelis has been in the YouTube chat sort of saying it in before, triple stint on the tires because the weather is so cold. So to have some of the teams do a full stop with fuel and tires, even without a driver swap, and really that VRS GT eSport number 8 car, I think might be the one to really keep an eye on, because that team has been very quick. That car has been very quick all season. They were quick at Bathurst, they were quick at Sebring, and they're quick here at Monza, but I think the strategy is where they've continually shot themselves in the foot. And right now they're looking at a 29-second deficit. So if that NX Racing blue car can maybe somehow, some way stretch this race the whole 3 hours on the tires, it'd be a bit of a shock, and I honestly doubt anyone will be able to go that long on them. But if they can, I'm not sure how Coanda can make up a deficit like this if that's something teams think they can pull out of their hat.
I was just noticing that Jared Phil-Sells lost 2 positions on that pit straight to the Pure Racing Team Red and also Team 33 car. So down 2 positions, and they look to be down on top speed as well, just Jared, as they're heading in towards...
Gerald?
I don't know where that came from.
Gerald Philsad?
It's better. It's better than what normally happens with some commentators who call him Yared, which is not. It's Jared. But there you go.
Could be a Marine. He could be Jarhead.
Possibly. No, he's not. He's Australian. Anyway, he's down to 17th place there in this one, and he's at the back of that Pure Racing Team blue car. Got cars in front as well, looking at SDK Apex car, Jamie Fluke, Mitchell de Jong. Now, of course, de Jong has had those fresh tyres on the car there, and Jonas Wallmeyer just ahead of them as well. So Mitchell de Jong is the first of the cars that has taken a full fuel and tyre stop here, Connery, so we're going to keep an eye on how he progresses here in this middle stint. We saw how he progressed around Sebring, but of course Sebring, the fresh tyres had more of an effect around there. There's more corners to start with, as here he goes with the run down the start and finish straight.
Yeah, he does, and I don't think Wallmeyer's going to fight this one too much around the outside of Vertivilio, and in fact that's going to be complete even before they get themselves on the brakes for the heavy braking zone of turn number 1, turn number 2. So I'm very interested in Mitchell's pace right here. He's got 1 minute 48.4 that last time by, which actually wasn't too far. It was actually a little bit slower than your race leader that last time by, but of course Mitchell had to make that overtaking move, had a little bit slower traffic on all the tyres ahead of him, so that one isn't exactly representative. So if he gets a couple of laps in clear air here, we can really start to tell where his pace lies on those fresh tyres.
Well, he's slower than the second place running car of Dream Factory. Diego Catalan, he just did a 48.1. Compare that to that Coin Sport, he just did a 48.4. Jim just did a 48.2. Sebastian Job just did a 48.5. 48.3 from Friscots in the NX Racing yellow car. The new tires aren't helping Mitchell right now. And yeah, he's making passes, but I feel like they just made the same mistake they made at Sebring, where Mitchell went out on new tires while everyone double stinted through the middle stint. But Mitchell was so held up by traffic through that center stage of the race that he was pretty much out of contention by the end of it.
I'm just going to jump in before you say anything here, Paul. It's just, the thing is, I think that was sort of a blip there for Mitchell de Jong, because his previous laps, lap 35, lap 36, lap 37, were all within the 147.7 range. So it might have just been a bad lap of traffic for Mitchell.
I was hoping there was going to be more sort of counter discussion between the two. But yeah, looking at the lap times there as they've gone across. Justin Brunner. Yeah, Justin Brunner 48.1, 48.5 for Dream Factory on this last lap, and yeah, you look at Mitchell de Jong there 47.6, even making that. But the thing is, he did have a slipstream onto the start of his lap, which will gain him a little bit of time. But yeah, new tyres, you're going to be quicker out of the corners, and he's going to be quicker through the braking zones as well. He's going to be able to brake later if he wants to, but quite frankly, he'll be doing a little bit of fuel saving. So it's a case of just lifting off and then into the corners he goes. But out those corners, as I say, he's going to have those runs out the corners, using the grip of those tyres, getting to the power earlier. So his lap time should be a little bit better than some of the guys up at the front there. And well, just looking at those. there we are, couple of laps on board with your current race leader in this Virtual Racing School GT iRacing World Championship Series, round number 3 here at the Autodromo Nacional Monza. And what a opening part of the race this has been. Let's have a look at the top 8 standings here in today's race. And it is Simicube, Inex Racing Blue, Justin Brunner with about 14.3 second lead over the Dream Factory in second place. That Mercedes doing well there in second, with Jim Racing GTR Cento Yellow in third place, right behind them. So those two pretty close together. Fourth place for the FA Racing G2 Logitech G car, Sebastian Job still behind the wheel. He started the race off in that one and he's still there. Wyatt Gooden, what a race he's had so far. Started off in 41st place up to 5th place in this race so far for Radicals Online. 6th place, Simicube, Inex Racing Yellow, Robin Friscops in there. 7th for Glacier North. They've got a little bit of a contra strategy going on here. They took a short fuel stop at their first pit stop, so they're looking at maybe a 3-stopper here today. And TTL Esports, Joshua Rogers down in 8th place after a heart-in-mouth moment at the first chicane and almost wiped out 3rd place at the time team, but able to keep going here. And well, Randy, that first sort of hour and 20 minutes gone. We've had the first pit stops here and we're seeing how the fresh tyres are working out for Mitchell de Jong.
He's showing some decent pace, but I'm still on the edge on this one. I don't think he's going fast enough. Those tires on that NX car need to completely fall flat, I think, in order for this to work out, because you got to figure he's only about 3 seconds back, and you talk about a full stint on old tires. For Mitchell, he's got to pretty much average close to a second or lap quicker than the NX Racing Blue car, currently only circulating about 2 or 3 tenths quicker every single lap around. So I don't think this is going to pan out for Mitchell unless those tires on that NX Blue machine hit some sort of plateau. We're also keeping an eye on pit road, because it's very likely that 3 stoppers will likely be making their second pit stop somewhere around 30 minutes past that first one. So about an hour and a half to an hour and 40 minutes into this race is basically where we're expecting people to hit pit road for the 3-stop.
Yeah, here we are then, live on iRacing Live with RaceSpot TV. Paul Smith, Randy Cheneth and Connery Maddock here today. Jack Styles on the social media for you. You can always keep up to date with our social media. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter. And make sure you use the hashtag iRacingWCS and tweet at Real VRS, as we've had a car off, and it's the Van Devil Sim Racing yellow car, and it's at the chicane. And what has happened there? Well, they were under attack from the number 13, got into that chicane. Oh, a little bit of contact, and around goes that 13 car. Managed to keep it out of the way of everyone else though, but that BMW got caught up with them, and not the best of times there for the 13 car, dropping down the order. So we just saw the replay there on screen, but yeah, Connery, looking at this race, it's all calmed down now for the time being. Well, I say for the time being, apart from that contact there, but everybody's looking towards the strategy game, looking towards what they can do as Ian Ford and the Evolution Racing Team 27 car comes up to pit road.
Yeah, exactly. So in the next around about 10 to 15 minutes, we'll see those that have committed to the 3-stop strategy to start coming down towards the lane, and then it's going to be another issue of who can make the hour for the rest of your 2-stoppers right now. But Gagler cars going on for what is around about what's going to be P4 you spotted there, right?
I'm talking, just looking at Ian Ford, because he has damage on that car. That's not a scheduled stop. He had a spin coming out of the first Lesmo. Got a big bite of oversteer on the track out, was never able to get it back, ran up over the curb, and then pretty much spat him out into the inside wall on the right-hand side. So that's why we're seeing Ian Ford down on pit lane.
Yep, we've got a we're gonna have try and get a look at the replay here, try and find it, but yeah, Ian Ford in that Evolution Racing. It's not been the best of days for the Evolution Racing Team. We mentioned it earlier, as there we go. There it is on replay. Lost control and heavy side impact with the left-hand side of that car. It already had a little bit of damage on that 27 car, but he's now on pit road, and he's going to be, I think he'll be parking it possibly, or, well, they're going to stay in the car and see what they can get out of here, because The thing is, when you get towards the end of the season, you just need as many points as possible, because crucially, Randy, for people in this championship, okay, you're fighting for the top of the championship, but you're also fighting for your opportunity to stay in this series as well, the top 25 qualifying for next year's championship.
And that's really the big talking point about a series like this, is being able to keep yourself in that with an eligible license and not having to run through the qualifying series, because the qualifying series, even though it generally is the best teams, more often than not end up getting a license. It can be a bit of a lottery, a lot of those races, in terms of being able to get yourself in, because you're talking just an overall group of less talented drivers and a very aggressive group of drivers, because they know that they need to get a good result every single week in order to have any hope of really being the top 20 or, you know, whatever the number ends up being the cutoff, to maintain a license and work their way forward. There have been questionable driving standards in that qualifying series in the past, and if you can avoid that, you want to do so at all costs.
As well, I'm looking at the battle from 4th down to 7th. You've got Radicals Online, right? You've got FA Racing with Sebastian Job. You've got Inex Racing Yellow with Robin Friscops. You've got Glacier North with JJ Nylander. All battling out, all pretty close together. You've got BMW, Audi, and then 2 more BMWs. So those BMWs here today, Connery, really actually looking quite strong, quite favourable as we're going through towards the second half of this stint here. And maybe those BMWs, because with that little bit of extra downforce that those cars have, maybe looking after their tyres a bit more, and of course the Audi with the extra weight penalty.
Yeah, could well be. And if you asked me before this race, I would have said, yeah, these BMWs going to be, you know, bottom half of the field, but we've got BMWs running as high as currently in 5th place right now with Gem Racing GTR Centre Yellow. So it's very, very surprising indeed, but I think what is playing into their hands right now is the weight of that Audi. It's just not going to be a good day for them right now. As Glacier North looking down the inside of Inex Yellow there into the curve of Parabolica, not able to make that opportunity happen though. And now let's see if the likes of FA Racing G2 now can defend from Inex Racing Yellow, because look at that, Inex have the slipstream. They will perhaps draw it alongside here, coming down in towards the first chicane. So it's Friscops, he's going to take the position here. Sebastian Job is not going to fight that one at all. There's absolutely no point. If they go side by side through here, they're basically just slowing each other down.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Glacier car was just showing a little bit of impatience trying to make that move into the Parabolica. Okay, we have seen people make moves there in the past, but really you want to have the run out of the Parabolica to get the speed all the way down towards the Rettifilio. And you know, what was that, a little bit of impatience there, Randy, from that number 7 Glacier car, or was it just that he saw an opportunity and maybe thought, right, we've got an opportunity here?
As far as I'm concerned, with this BMW on this sort of pit strategy, I don't think they can afford to be patient. They have to make moves. You know, you're going for a 3-stop race in a race like this. You know, there's no safety cars to help you out. There's nothing of the sort. So you need to make moves when you feel that you can. You need to just be aggressive with it. So I think for them, yeah, it was an aggressive move. It was a dicey move. But in order for their strategy to work, they have to be able to make moves like that.
As they head on through the Ascari chicane, you can see how that Radicals car is just pulling away from this group behind him. So Inex Racing Yellow, FA Racing and Glacier North all just losing track of Wyatt Gooden there in front, and those guys doing a good job here at the moment. Those BMW really showing strong, and I always like to see the BMW do well personally. I think it's quite a favoured car for some people, but maybe it's because I race it all the time that I'm quite biased towards it. Here we go then. Here's the move. Sebastian Job not able to compete with the top speed there. I never thought I'd say that. Going into the first chicane, and gets the job done, does that Glacier car, but of course lighter car. Then we've seen that he's on the 3-stop strategy here.
Also not fuel saving. Whereas that FA G2 car likely is having to save fuel, and that's probably why that top speed is seeming so strong. Look at the run that Nylander gets out of that first chicane. He's absolutely blitzed Sebastian Job.
Yeah, he's certainly doing a good job here. So his next target is that Inex Racing Yellow car of Robin Friscops, and he's really got the bit between his teeth. But looking at the pit delta of that last pit stop that they did, which was exactly 30 seconds for the actual stop, 56 seconds from cone to cone, but that's not including the slowing down and then speeding up out of the pit road. So you can maybe say about, what, a minute and 5 or so that you would lose for doing this 3-stop strategy. Compare that to like Justin Brunner did was only, what, 11.5 seconds longer actually stopped on pit road. Is it really going to gain enough, or is he going to maybe just jump those cars mid-pack, Randy, that he was battling with earlier? Because he started 30th, he's up to 6th here at the moment. Is it just all about sort of trying to gap yourself over those cars that you were fighting?
Well, there's no way that Glacier car, I think, is going to win this race. We saw Evolution Racing Team last season. In the season opener, they did the same thing, but the important thing to note is that Evolution Racing Team car was amongst, well, those cars rather, they were up amongst the lead fight, running top 5 and out in front for a vast majority of that race. Now, of course, that was a race that Course Sim Racing Orange ended up taking, and with Isaac and Freddie. So it's one of those things that, no, I do not think this Glacier North car is going to end up winning the race. I don't think their target should be NX, should be Dream Factory. You know, any of those cars in front of them that are on typical two-stop strategies, I don't think there's any way that Glacier is going to jump them. It's going to be those cars in the mid-pack that they're really targeting most of those guys that they're racing around. They simply were too deep in the field when this first happened. So expect Glacier to do something interesting, and there'll probably be another phase where they might be out in front. But however, they'll then make their third and final pit stop, and that'll basically put them way, way, way down the order.
Speaking of the 3-stoppers, Hayden Burns has brought his car onto pit road for Van Devil Sim Racing Yellow, and Wani Lopez has jumped in behind the wheel of that car. So we're at the halfway point of this race here. That was one of your 3-stop cars that we were seeing here. Not many have taken the option of a 3-stop strategy, to be honest. And really, it's whether it pans out here. We've got to wait and see. We've got to be patient to see how that strategy all works out for them. But this will be, you'd imagine, about a 40-something second pit stop for them. Or maybe they'll take tyres as well. And this one, yeah, they do.
That's a mistake.
Lopez taking tyres with the 3-stop. But you're then going to have a short final stint, pit stop for that Van Devil Sim Racing Yellow car. And we've been saying, Connery, that we don't imagine any car not taking any, not going for a no tyres stop strategy.
I mean, if one of the teams do want to go for something like that, you know, if you're usually a team that is further back through the field and you've just got a Hail Mary to try and gain yourself a good couple of positions, it is a strategy that you can go for. But I think everyone's just going to stick to the double stints right now, with vast majority of them taking the tyres in the final stints to go to the end. But you've got obviously other cars that are also doing the opposite strategy as well. Taking tyres on that pass stop and then double stinting the 2 stops to the end. The other stops to the end. So we'll see how that one works out for them. But it's something that the teams, have people designated to try and work out. You have these crew chiefs, you have these spotters just like running the calculations, and sometimes there's some software involved in that one as well. So, I think these teams are going to be well prepared for anything that might happen or which strategy they can go on.
We're past the halfway point of this race. We just saw Jim Racing White make the overtake on the SDK Apex Racing UK car of Jamie Fluke. And these Audis really are having to fuel save. And thank you, Bo Albert, for a little bit of information there in the YouTube chat. Because, Randy, as he's mentioned there, the BMW is a lot more friendly towards the fuel saving. So they're able to push harder in these stints here.
Perhaps a little bit. I don't know how big the effect is, though, because I think one of the things to keep in mind that a lot of those BMWs out in front, they skip tires, and I think it's more likely that those top cars are probably just a little bit easier on the tires than the Audi is. Keep in mind, a little bit better downforce, and a little bit lighter are what those cars are, so it could be also playing into effect as well. But at the same time, you do have a pretty long train of Audis. You got Josh Rogers, Verdun Kral, then you have a Mercedes SK Kashubi, then you get more Audis all in a line. So sort of interesting situation. Still watching not Marcus Leonard, but still watching that VRS Sport car, though. of Mitchell de Jong, and I still don't think the lap times are there for him to be able to reel his way forward. He just did a 47.5 to a 47.9 of that Semi-Cube NX Racing blue car. So unless there's some crazy shenaniganry that Coanda is pulling out, I think they got the strategy wrong.
Maximilian Pinecke making up a position on Mario Bertolotti. So that's up to 13th now for the recovering Pure Racing Team red car. And it was down the pit straight on the slipstream down into turn number 1 for Max Pinecke. And this Connery is a man who will be hugely disappointed with how this race has gone straight from the start.
Yeah, exactly. You know, facing the wrong way coming out of turn number 1 and 2 is, you know, not what most drivers like to happen. So that is the thing, is that's the cards that he's been dealt right now, and he just has to do the best he can with his teammate to be able to drag that Pure Racing Team red car all the way back up through the field. And we can't forget, they were tied leading the championship coming into this round. That is, I don't think that's going to be the case once we're done here at Monza.
Yeah, there's going to be some furious mathematics going on in the background here when the race finishes, when we get the results, so we can try and give you what the championship standards will be at the end of this one. But Esther Racing really at the back of Keiko Shube in that Team 33 car, and they're right up behind Joshua Rogers as well. So 3 cars, Audi, Mercedes, Audi, coming out the Parabolica all together. I would imagine that Keiko Shube, with the fresher tyres, is going to make the move, and here he comes out alongside, and Joshua Rogers isn't going to fight that one. He's just going to let him go past, let him slot in front, and then use the slipstream, use that draft for a little bit of extra fuel saving. Gap out front, by the way, just for information, 15.5 seconds between Justin Brunner and that NX Racing blue car and the Dream Factory of Diego Catalan, should say, for driving for them, with Jim Racing GTR Centre Yellow in 3rd place, still sticking to the back of that Dream Factory car. But you see that battle on screen. Joshua Rogers trying his best as just as he cuts away. In fact, Dream Factory, they've got a car between themselves and that Jim car, and that's Jack Sedgwick. So Jack Sedgwick has been able to get back out on track after his little bit of technical problems earlier on, and able to get back into this race. He's looking quick, and he's seeming to be able to keep up with these guys at the front, but that's because he was battling for the lead in the early stages of this race before he had that technical problem. So he's in between those two, but that's just spoiling our battle a little bit between 2nd and 3rd place as they're going through the Parabolica once again. So that's that battle for 2nd, and you look at the battle for 4th place as well, still going on here, Connery. Radicals Online, White Gooden, NX Racing Yellow with Robin Friscops, and Glacier North with JJ Nylander. And JJ looking like he's going to try and make a move sometime soon.
Yep, sometime soon, maybe in the next couple of seconds, but nope, he's just going to fall in line behind his fellow BMW there, as deep on the brakes he'll go anyway down in towards the Rettifilio. But again, that's just kind of more for show, maybe trying to get a couple of tenths of a second there. But you know, the driver, the team at the front of this 3-car train right now has been running so very well. We mention it every single time they draw our focus. This Radicals Online up number 30, up 37 places. 37 places, and you know, when you consider the standard of this field, these are the top GT racers in the entirety of iRacing. That is absolutely impressive.
It is. It's a fantastic job. Of course, they're going to have their driver change at the final pit stop for them. Everybody just having to work the numbers here, though, today. As we'll look further down, 17th, Crossmaster Movano red, Dion Fowler at the wheel. He's got Pure Racing Team Blue, Jonas Wallmeyer behind him. Then he's got VRS Trans-Tasman Racing, Jared Filsell. And then behind them, Pure Racing Team Yellow as well. So 2 Pure Racing Team cars involved in this one, Randy, as they're heading down towards the Scarra chicane. The BMW at the head of the field has got a slight bit of damage on the front left of that car, so it's not going to be. It's also got a little bit of just a little bit of damage on the front right wheel arch as well as they're heading down the pit, down the back straight, heading towards the Parabolica here, Randy. But that Thrustmaster car has jumped positions as JJ Nylander, one of your 3-stop track cars, is on pit road as well.
So they're going to come down for their second pit stop. They're going to drop. But you're right. I mean, talking about this little fight, though, I think all these cars have a bit of damage. So you have Jamie Fluke. He's a little bit of ways ahead of this, but not too much. He's damaged. Then you got that Movano BMW front damage. Pure Racing Team blue car, Jonas Wollmeyer, they're a little crumpled as well. Jared Filsell, that car got killed at the first chicane on the first lap. And, well, Daniel Schoik is going to take a look on that Pure Racing Team yellow car up the inside. And, oh, just going to get that done nicely before the entry of the chicane. Jared Filsell made that a little bit tight, but overall a clean move regardless.
Yeah, it was just a little bit of squeezing there going on between the two of them as they headed onto the braking here into that Retafilio. Jared Filsell, he really is a competitive driver. He races the V8s. He took part in the RaceSpot race day last year, of course, in the Porsches, and always impressed in those Porsche 911 GT3 Cup cars. But it's a different kettle of fish as this Ferrari that he's driving, and he's just dropped to the back of this queue of cars now. And that queue of cars has got their sights set on Jamie Fluke just up the road. They've got lap traffic between them, which is of course the MSP Phoenix Racing cars, Gregory Tansom, in between them. So they've got to get past him first before they get to that Apex Racing UK car of Jamie Fluke. But going down that back straight once again, Pure Racing Team Yellow, they're looking to make the move, and Pure Racing Team Blue are just going to let them by here down the back straight towards the Parabolica. A lot of bit of team play working there, obviously feeling that the yellow car is the faster of the two cars, and so they're working their way through upper positions so that they can pull that blue car along, Connery.
Yeah, certainly looks like it's going to be the case as we see a pass for P number 7 there as FA Racing G2 lose the position to team number 33. And that's Kei Gashube currently behind the wheel of that one. So that's the team that was the ex-Huisenbach Core Motorsports car.
I was going to say the two BMWs, by the way, 4th and 5th, swap positions as well. There was 3 cars in that battle at one point, but they've separated themselves down to just 2 cars, and Inex Racing Yellow have got themselves ahead of Radicals Online now. So as they go into the Lesmos once again, that's a change of position then. 4th for Inex Racing Yellow, 5th for Radicals Online. But I'll tell you what, Radicals won't be too unhappy about that, considering the day that they've had so far here, Randy. Oh, like we were saying earlier, 41st to 5th place. That's one heck of an achievement.
Doing a good job. Going to be interesting to see how the strategy pans out, though, and what happens, because we're about 15 minutes away from the final round of pit stops. Actually, a little bit closer to 20. Let me slightly correct that. But, yeah, they've done a phenomenal job. This is one of the best drives through the field I think we've ever seen. Up 37 spots since the start of this race. A little bit of strategy has come into that, but that's more than I think relevant in my opinion. And it's important to note that the pace of that Radicals BMW isn't even bad. You got to factor in Mitchell de Jong. He's sort of the pace setter right now on drivers who took tires. He's doing 47.5s, and Wyatt Gooden's out there doing 48.0s on an older set of tires. So he's doing very, very well, is Wyatt Gooden. And something I want to talk about, Mitchell is sort of within the delta that I believe that if that Semi-Cube Inex Racing blue car takes tires, I think Mitchell will jump them. The question I have, though, is over that second stint, if that NX blue car doesn't take tires, or excuse me, if it does take tires, I don't think there's any way Coanda is going to take tires at the next stop, so Mac Backham will be in the car on an old set, is that whoever's getting into that NX car is going to have a McLaren on fresh tires at Monza, and I don't think there's any way in the world that the 8 machine will be able to maintain a gap for long. So while we might see towards the end of this final hour, we might see VRS Sport number 8 lead this race, sort of a big question mark if they'll be able to maintain that to the end.
Joshua Rogers down a position here, down to 10th. Marcus Lenderman has made a move on him into turn number 1. So that's a change of position just at the edge of your top 10 here. And Lenderman moving forward then in this field at the moment. Looking ahead now, but he's got 3.7 seconds between him and Sebastian Job in that number 14 car as they're heading towards the second half of this lap here. We've got about an hour and 16 minutes remaining in this one. And let's just talk about quickly that Pure Racing Team Red car in recovery mode here, Connery. They've made it, Maximum Beckett has made it to the back of this group of cars of Esther Racing, TTL eSports, and that VRS #1 car that we were just talking about.
Yeah, he has, and well, looking at the stint times, he seems about comparable to pretty much everyone else in this train, so he is on cycle in terms of the strategy. He's just had an absolutely abysmal start to the race, but this is potentially good points on the cards right now for PRT Red to try and stem the bleeding somewhat from that opening lap incident. So they've got, what, a train of 4 cars ahead of them right now that could bring them up in towards the P number 7 spot there, as actually that's a little bit of lap traffic there just ahead of VRS Clandestine's #1 car. That's the 46 of Gym Racing Pink there, running into issues a little bit earlier on, so hopefully they get themselves out of the way and allow this pack to continue, well, currently fuel saving, but potentially fighting.
Well, let's just quickly run you through. We've just got an hour before we expect the next round of pit stops, and as Pure Racing Team Red looking to the inside into the De La Roja, let's have a look at your movers and shakers then. So it's Simicube Inex Racing Blue in that McLaren in first place. They've been there from the start. Second place, Dream Factory. Good race from them so far, with Gym Racing Yellow in third, Inex Racing Yellow in fourth, up 23 positions there you can see. But Radicals Online, that's the big mover there, 36 positions they've gained in fifth place. VRS Quantum Sport #8 car down 2 positions in sixth place with Team 33. I know it only says team on our graphics, but it is definitely Team 33 in 7th place. 8th place is FA Racing. They're up 6 positions for qualifying. Not the best qualifying session from them today for Sebastian Job. They've got Isaac Price to jump into that car yet for the final pit stop. VRS Quantum Sim Spot #1 is in 9th place with TTL eSports in 10th place. But you can see those guys that have moved up and down the field, and you look further down the field as well here at the movers, and look at some of those guys that have moved down there. That VRS Trans-Tasman Racing we saw involved in an incident at the start of the race at the first chicane. They were spun around the wrong way, facing the wrong way. They're down 14 positions. Teo Martin eSports looking at over 24 positions in this race as well. And the rest of them, Evolution Racing Team at 14, so to SRT eSports. So we've seen some good movers in this field, but as you go down to the end of the field as well, some not so favourable moves in that final third of your field here today, Connery, with like Inex Red down 28 positions, Jim Pink down 21, 24 positions for Odox Samsung Pro.
Yeah, not a great day for those guys at all, as I'm currently watching the Esther Racing Team versus PRT Red battle. Maximilian Beneke is having a ton of issues trying to get past, decides to sling one down the inside of the first Lesmo, and he wasn't able to do that at any of the regular overtaking points on his racing circuit. He tried it down in towards turn #1, just couldn't find the gap to slot himself through. Tried it down in towards the De La Roja. That didn't work either, so he decides, hey, I'm going to sling one down the inside where he least expects it, down into the first Lesmo, and he gets the position.
Well, there we are then. Beneke up to 11th. We've seen how he can be a really quick driver, but he's also can be a bit assertive, shall we say, with some of the moves that he makes in this race. We saw him get involved in an incident. Okay, so we got that incident at the start of the race where he was spun round, but then also early on at the Parabolica he spun himself on one of the Evolution Racing Team cars as well. So we've seen how these things have been changed up. Dream Factory, by the way, are coming under a little bit of pressure from Jim Yellow at the moment. Second and third as they go through the first chicane, the Retafilio here, Randy. And Dream Factory, Diego Catalan, should I say. It's because I've got a teammate called Diogo, and I keep on saying that rather than Diego. But Diego, second place for that Dream Factory. Really good outing here so far for the Dream Factory in that Mercedes.
Yeah, they're doing quite good, aren't they? Quite well indeed, as they're currently running that second spot. See him hop that curb. That curb to the second chicane is one of the most difficult things to set up a car for around here, around Monza. You're always trying to set this car up flat. You want to lower the rake, and that makes the car not like those big hops. You need to do some crazy things sometimes with the dampers to make the cars work over there. And well, I did it too. Dream Factory did a good job of making their setup work over that, as the Mercedes has been one of the worst at being able, at least in my experience, setting the car up around this place, one of the worst being able to make it work up and over those bumps. But they're doing very well with that Dream Factory car.
Esther.
Go ahead.
Esther Racing at the second Lesmo. They've had an incident. We'll have a look at it here. They went off onto the gravel and they took to the air, lost control at the exit of the first Lesmo into contact then. And that's the barrier that they made heavy impact with, and I would imagine that they're going to be taking that car back to the pits and parking it there, Connery.
Yeah, exactly. That car doesn't look too healthy at all. At least on the live pictures, they'll lose a position to STK Apex Racing UK and a couple of others as well, as we see an onboard shot of this one just jumped over the curb. Heavy impact with the orange part, the end part of the Armco barrier there, as we perhaps get even another look at it here. Watch this slow motion shot onto the gravel, wait for the hop, as we're just going to see it. Maybe I've mistimed my commentary here. There we go, up and into the air, and landing. These cars, they don't really like that amount of load going through the suspension. Doing
the best Gene Wilder impression, doing the kangaroo.
I was thinking, to keep it motorsport themed, of Mark Webber or even Vitaly Petrov. If you remember the Malaysian Grand Prix, Vitaly Petrov went and did a big jump in his Lotus back a number of years ago now in Formula One. So these cars are not exactly built for jumping, Randy, that's for sure.
Yeah, they're definitely not. You need to be somewhat careful with that. You know, you sort of pick the right sides up off some of the, either side off some of these big curves. But my main worry is if anyone in the chat's even going to be old enough to get my Gene Wilder reference.
I'll tell you, well, I got your Gene Wilder reference. I just chose to ignore it.
Like I said, if anyone in the chat's going to be old enough.
I tell you what, look at this battle then. 4th, 5th, and now 6th, because look who's there at the back of this group. Mitchell de Jong here on those fresher tyres. He's going to look here, Connery, to the inside of the Parabolica, and you know what? Wyatt Gooden's done the right thing there. He said, you know what? Have the position. If you're that desperate for it, you can have it, because I'll get the better run out the corner. And that's what he's trying to do, use that slipstream. And those guys have actually been gaining on Dream Factory and also Jim Yellow as well. But you look at this. Those cars all in front of Mitchell here have not had tyre stop. Mitchell has had a tyre stop, and look at how close he is. He's going to jump these by a country mile here, Connery.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely huge as VRS kind of sport. And a little bit of a sandwich there between those two BMWs coming through the red Filia chicane, but now Mitchell can focus on trying to chase down the Simicube Enex Racing yellow car, and you're absolutely right. These cars have been, at least over the last couple of laps, have been catching the likes of Dream Factory and the Gym Racing yellow cars. So the Enex Racing yellow, Gym Racing yellow, both the same color, but one in front of the other. That's the Gym Racing team currently trying to follow Dream Factory for P number 2, but they've just been sitting pretty there, just doing the fuel-saving game, as with pretty much everyone throughout the rest of the field, except for that VRS Grand Sport car, because they need positions, they need the track position to make this strategy work.
Randy, what are we expecting then? We're coming up to the final pit stop, as here comes Mitchell down the inside of that other BMW up into 4th place. What are we expecting from these final pit stops? Where do we expect Mitchell de Jong to come out here? Because it's about 18.5 seconds behind your leader, Justin Brunner.
Runner takes tires. I think that Koena Sport car will take the lead. Mac Packham will likely be behind the wheel. They'll probably have about a 7 to 8 second lead, give or take. Depends on sort of how they get on the pit road, and really it depends on their fuel delta, because Mitchell would not have been doing any fuel saving through the second stint. They're probably going to have to come down maybe a little bit early, and they're likely going to have to fill that tank all the way to the brim. I also expect Mac Packham to get behind the wheel of that car. It's him and Philip Stam who have logged into the server. Anyone who knows those names knows that Mac Backham would be the driver you go with 100% of the time in that situation. So I expect Mac to get in the car. I expect them to come out potentially with the race lead, but I expect that NX Racing Blue machine, who's going to be getting into that car, I suspect they will be skipping tires, and it'll either be Jake Sergios or Simon Cattell. Could really go with either of those drivers, to be honest. I think they'll likely come out somewhere around P2, maybe P3, depending on some sort of crazy strategy. And I think that in all likelihood, they'll probably have the pace and will likely spend a majority of the stint chasing down Mac. And I think they'll end up being able to make that pass happen.
Don't forget, you can keep up to date with everything going on in this race. Just check out RaceSpot TV /timing. Keep up to date with everything. If we're not focusing on your favourite team, you'll be able to keep an eye on how they're getting on, looking at the lap times, looking at pit stops. You'll be able to see also when there's change of drivers, when there's pit stops made, everything going on there. Just check it out, RaceSpot TV /timing. And also get social with us as well. It's Facebook and Twitter. We're on. Use the hashtag iRacing WCS and tweet at RealVRS to get involved with that social media. And yeah, we're heading towards the final third of the race here. We're heading towards the final pit stop of the race as well. That battle for second place, they're slowing each other down, you feel, as they're allowing Mitchell de Jong to catch up to them. Their lap times have been in the 1:48.0, 1:48.1. Mitchell de Jong's last lap was a 1:47.3. In fact, we're coming across the line now. 48.2, 48.0 and a 47.2 for Mitchell de Jong. And the third car, he's gaining on second and third place in this one as Wyatt Gooden and Kei Kashube swap positions then further down. 6th and 7th place have swapped positions into turn number 1 there currently.
Yep, they have. So Raj goes online. Well, that was actually more of the newer tires coming into effect there for Kei Kashube. So White Good not going to battle that one too much, and I can expect the rest of these cars ahead, apart from Mitchell, to not fight too much with Kashube here. So I expect Kashube to get past NX Racing Yellow pretty quickly, but then with the pace that 33 car has, I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to drag himself up to the back of Mitchell and give him a hard time.
I'll tell you what, you made a very good point there. Kei Kashube did take tyres in that Team 33 car, and that means that they're on that fresher tyres, but Kei did jump into the car at the end of that first stint. So as he makes the move now up ahead of that NX Racing Yellow BMW, that's up to 5th place for that Team 33 car. I wouldn't be surprised if that Team 33 car... Oh, it's Mitchell de Jong. He's taking to his rallycross and adventures there on the exit of the Ascara chicane. But Kashube, he's in with a shout of the win here, Andy.
Definitely is. Kei Kashube is doing some very impressive lap times. He was 0.3 of a second quicker than Mitchell de Jong that last trip around. So that's a team that we need to keep an eye on. And we got first team to really blink up around the front. Wyatt Good and Radicals online. They come down pit road. This is 4 minutes shy of the hour. They're going to have to do something like an hour and 2 minutes on that tank of fuel. So Radicals, what you want to do right now for these guys, you want to come down pit road. You want to take a full tank of fuel, and you want to take tires. You want to extend this pit stop as long as you can, so you can spend as little time on the racetrack as possible, because you want that fuel to go the entire way, and you're going to have to do a lot of fuel saving. Wyatt gets out of that car, and it's going to be Zach Thomas who's going to run that car for the final stint. So the first of our race leaders sort of to blink here. Next, I think we're going to probably expect, I would not be surprised if Coanda Synsport, that number 8 car with Mitchell de Jong, is likely going to pit a lap or 2 earlier than that race leading car of NX Racing Blue, likely due to the fact that Mitchell's been pushing so hard and is pretty much going to be struggling, I think, with the fuel economy.
I'll tell you what, he's doing a fantastic job though, as he's now clamped onto the back of the 2nd and 3rd place battle, and he doesn't want to get held up by these two too much, because even a second lost here and there is in fact the 59 car just goes, oh, go ahead Mitchell, nope. you're faster than us, go ahead, you've got a different strategy working there. but this is where a second lost here could end up affecting the end result here for that VRS Sport car, Connery, because it's going to be that close towards the end with the fresher tyres for that iNEX Racing blue car, Justin Brunner.
It is going to be pretty close because, well, we've got a gap of what looks like 15 seconds from VRS Sport number 8 to your race leader right now. They'll get disposed of Dream Factory here coming down the pit straight, and Diego Catalan, he's gonna not easily let by Mitchell de Jong at this stage, but down onto the brakes. He will try to fight it on the outside, but the thing is, there's only so much that he can do on those older tires, so that's Mitchell through for VRS Sport. We've also got Keiga Shube, team number 33, behind as well, looking to get himself through as quickly as Mitchell got through.
Jim Racing Azuri is onto pit road. Mario Bertolotti is going to jump out of that car here, and they're making their final pit stop of the day. Just coming up to an hour and 1 minute remaining in this one. So, yeah, definitely going to be an interesting race finish, that's for sure. And Monza has had historic race finishes. It had one of the closest ever race finishes in Formula One. Not closest ever in motorsport.
4 cars within a second, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think it was half a tenth of a second between the first two. So it was won by a nose, I think, was the official
Good luck
result.
timing that in the 1960s.
Yeah, it was Jackie Stewart who won that one as well. Yeah, it's got a history of these close finishes. And right now, Mitchell de Jong, look at the lap times that he's putting in here compared to your race leader, Justin Brunner. We're going to keep an eye on Justin Brunner now, see whether he comes onto pit road. And the answer's not this time, so he's going to stay out. And this is important, Randy, because the longer that he goes out, this is going to help him with that final pit stop time.
Definitely could be. Let's see what Mitchell de Jong is going to do. I think he's likely to swing right past pit entry as well, and indeed that's going to be the plan. So no one else out in front going to hit pit road just yet. Let's take a look at some of the other cars a little bit deeper down. Lenderman is going to go by that pit entry. And let's see who else. Seb Job, everyone is pretty much not so. Everyone except that Radicals car deciding that pit stop time, not quite yet, but every single time they cycle past, we get closer and closer, and really I think at this point everyone should be able to make it on fuel except that Radicals car, because it's going to be a long stint. They're likely going to have to go full fuel save mode. They might be able to do it, but they don't have Josh Chin on their team, so good luck with that one.
Thrustmaster Movano Red have jumped onto pit road now for their final pit stop, and Tommaso Carla is jumping in to the car here. So they're making their final pit stop along with Jim Racing Black and also a couple others as well. The VRS Sport number 18 car is onto pit road as well as also the Pure Racing Team Black car. They're on pit road. Bardal Sim Racing as well. We've not really spoken about them all race. They're onto pit road as well to make their final pit stop. So definitely you've got the start of this pit strategy now coming into play. Justin Brunner, I'm keeping an eye on him as he's heading down the back back straightaway. He's actually getting overtaken by one of the back markers at the moment, heading into the Parabolica. Round the final corner, will we see him duck off to the right? He's holding over to the right hand side, so we expect the race leader onto pit road this time. Here he comes then onto pit road. Final pit stop, and that iNEX Racing blue car. This is so important for that car to be able to get such a perfect stop here. We've got 58 minutes remaining in this one, and so too, there you go, Mitchell de Jong into the pit road. Crucially though, Team 33 stay out of pit road, so too to Jim Racing Yellow, so they're going to go a lot longer still in this one. How this one goes, Jake Sturgis jumping into the car for that iNEX Racing blue car. Mitchell de Jong onto pit road. They're going to make their driver change here as well. You expect it to happen. There you go, Matt Backham jumping in, and well, we've seen that group of cars that stayed out longer at the first stop. They're staying out longer again at this second stop here. But Randy, this is all about getting you everything absolutely spot on for this pit stop here.
Really is. I'm watching this next car to see if they're going to go for the triple stint. Inspect the tires. They are indeed. They're not going to take tires in this race. So because of that, VRS Esports will not come out with the race lead. That is very important. And Mac Backham is now going to have to pick up time, but he is going to be on slightly new tires. He is not going to take tires as well. He is out and away with the double stint here. We also have NX Yellow behind in the BMW. Who's it that got in that car? That's William Levesque. He's going to be doing a triple stint as well. So triple stints aplenty here up near the front, but it's going to be Mac Backham who needs to try to chase down that McLaren being driven by Jake Sturgios. This is going to be an interesting one. I think a lot of people would likely pick Mac to have the speed over over Jake, and he is going to have the tire advantage. So will that Audi be able to reel in that McLaren? It's important to note at the end of the stint, Mitchell was lapping about a second a lap quicker than that McLaren.
And you look at this then, Matt Backham 13.5 seconds behind out the pit stops there, behind Jake Sturgios. It's how these guys get up to speed and how they're able to use those tyres and to use the car to their advantage as Keiko Shube onto pit road now from the race lead, Team 33 down on the lane. And with other cars not taking tyres, you would imagine that Team 33 car would perhaps take tyres here, Connery, but maybe they've seen what's happened there and think...
They took tyres at the last stop.
Yeah, they did, sorry, they did.
Double.
So yeah, it's a double stint. So yeah, Connery, we've got a race finish on our hands here.
Yeah, we weren't expecting this. We weren't expecting so many people to go on to the triple stint strategy, taking no tires over the entirety of this race. So now this is a showdown between those double stinters and the three stinters. And I think if you're double stinting the tires, you're going to still have fresher tires on this stint as well. So that margin for the race lead is going to keep coming down as Mitchell de Jong puts in those fast lap times on still fresher tires than that McLaren of what is going to be Next Blue. So this is going to be very, very interesting indeed.
Shube out of the pits. Here comes the VRS Quantum Sport car, Matt Backham. And I tell you what, Shube has jumped Backham here. So staying out that little bit longer has helped them there. And they're both on comparable tyres as well here, Randy. And Keiko Shube, Team 33, they're in the strongest position, you would imagine, here.
They're in a really good spot for sure, and keep in mind that Mercedes was the quickest at the end of the stint of all cars on track. Keiko Shube was circulating about 0.3 per lap quicker than Mitchell was, so that Mercedes has pace, and Keiko Shube's been in the car for an hour, going to be a little bit warmed up as you see him fight with that Mercedes going up and over the curb through the second chicane. Old tires getting out there on a heavy fuel load is going to make things relatively difficult, but now the chasing begins because that McLaren has typically not been good on its tires over the course of long races. We've seen that in the past. In this series, we've seen that it tends to struggle. It was sort of one of the fallbacks for the car last season, even though it was overall the best. And certainly in the hands of Core Sim Racing and Frederick Rasmussen, it was really good, but it has slightly lower downforce trim, and that means it's going to use the rubber a little bit more harshly than that Mercedes and the Audi will. So this is going to be an interesting 30-some-odd lap sprint to the end, because even though the gap looks relatively large, about 10 to 15 seconds is, I think, what it roughly is, I would expect that's going to come down, and it's likely going to be nothing with about 10 laps to go.
Jim Racing Yellow are on pit road now for their final pit stop as here comes I was going to say Justin Brunner then. Jake Sturgis completing his first flying lap out the pits. A 48.3 for Sturgis there. We'll keep an eye on Matt Backham's times because Keiko Shube has just had his pit stop. Matt Backham 48.2, so only 1/10 of a second quicker as Jim are still on pit road and they're taking tyres as well. So they've got a long pit stop for this final pit stop here, so they're going to drop down positions here. But it's this front three here. Don't count out William Levesque as well in that BMW. He's just behind them as well in 4th place. We've got a race in our hands. Radicals online after all these pit stops. Zach Thomas, 6th place, but look behind him. He's got Martin Solari in that Jim Racing white car. He's got Glacier North, who you would imagine owes one more pit stop here in this race because they've gone for the 3-stop strategy. Those three battling it out, 6th, 7th, and 8th place on track at the moment. It's heading into the second chicane. De La Roja through the left, through the right, abuse the curbs. 3 BMWs all together here, and that Glacier car it needs to get past here, Connery, for that 3-stop to have any effect here in this race.
Yeah, they are definitely racing on the back foot with the strategy, so it's fascinating to see we had 0 stop. We had 0 stint, one stint and 2 stint cars in this field right now as he looks for the outside line coming into Ascari, making it 3 wide, but decides against it as Jim Racing White there is just going to have to stay behind, but a slow entry to the Ascari chicane. Glacier North right over their rear bumper there, but still not able to capitalize on anything is Rich Vanimi there, and he's not even going to have a look coming down into the Parabolica either, so some chances going begging here for Glacier, and they really need to be taking these chances because of the strategy they've put themselves on.
Yeah, absolutely. And, well, looking at your leaders then, your leader, Jake Sturgis, a 48.2. Keg Shuby in second place, 48.0. VRS SimSport, Matt Backham, a 48.1. NX Racing Yellow, 48.5. As here comes that Glacier car down the inside. He's going to get both cars into the first chicane. Yes, he is. Into the Retafilio. I thought he might have gone a little bit deep there, though. He's going to be slower on the exit, but lighter car is the new fastest lap for Jack Sedgwick, a 146.7. Oh, what might have been for him in this race, considering the technical issues that he'd had in this one. But looking at this battle now, so Glacier up into that 6th place, but the O's a pit stop in this one. So too does Inex Racing Red with Jack Sedgwick. So those two. Jack Sedgwick actually in 10th place at the moment. But as I say, owing that one final pit stop. Wani Lopez as well, and that Vendevil Sim Racing yellow car was another one of the 3-stop cars. They're down in 20th place, owing us a final pit stop. So it's not been the best of days for that Vendevil car. But Randy, looking at those lap times, Jack Sturgis doing a good job at the moment of keeping those lap times at a manageable pace.
Doing good for now, but question's got to be is can he keep that pace up, because we saw the pace really fall through the floor for that McLaren after a handful of laps, and when he would have came down pit road, those tires would have gotten nicely cooled off. He did the 48.1, which is pretty rapid considering the tires. Let's see what Kei Kashubi does as he starts his run towards start finish right here. That Team 33 car, he's going to go to a 48.0, so still quicker, and Mac Backham goes to a 48.4, so the tire strategy for Coanda does not seem to be panning out right now.
Yeah, certainly not. And Backham really not liking it so far, it appears, for that VRS SimSport car, the number 8 car, in 3rd place. In terms of the championship, they're in a good spot though. But they have got the car behind, who did about a 10.5 lap faster that last time.
Oh, big wiggle from Jake out of the 2nd chicane.
Yeah, this is it now. He knows he's having to push it here, Connery. He knows he's having to really try and get everything, extract every little ounce of energy out of that car and out of those tyres, and just running that curb a little bit harsh there, as we saw on the replay. Just kick that back end out, and you don't want to be making a mistake on old tyres.
You don't at all. You know, even though you're pretty much starting to slide through these corners anyway on the old tyres, once you get past that sort of angle where you can save the car, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to try and keep it on the grey stuff. But Sturgis right now just being a bit tentative there, coming through the Ascari chicane. He knows that those tyres have to last now until the end of this race, but he's got to keep in mind Kei Kashubi 10.4 seconds behind and closing in little bit by little bit right now. But the main objective for Sturgis now is he has to keep those tyres alive. He can't afford them to drop off the cliff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be how it goes for that final 30 minutes of this race as to what happens here. And this is going to be a really interesting finish to the race. Glacier North, by the way, caught up to the back of Klaus Kivikas in that number 1 VRS SimSport car. So Glacier North, as I say, they owes a pit stop yet for that 3-stop strategy. But at the moment, they're getting a bit of airtime here. They're doing a good job as they're coming up alongside, and I bet Klaus will have been told by his team, don't fight too much with that car, they're not racing us, let them by, use their slipstream to get a bit of extra speed and a bit of not so much fuel saving at this point of the stage, although saying that, that Audi will still need to do a little bit of fuel saving here today, Randy, with that weight penalty. We keep on bringing up that weight penalty, but 40 kilograms, it is a significant amount to be carrying around extra compared to the other cars.
Back.
It is
a little bit
big.
off.
Go ahead.
Sorry there. Yeah, Mac Backham having a couple of issues getting through the Della Roja chicane there. I think he clipped the curb just a little bit too much. That's that second curb. Just unsettled the car. Had to take a bit of a trip through the gravel there. But that's just showing like how much on the ragged edge he is right now, trying to draw himself back up to Team 33 and NX Racing Blue. He knows what's on the line.
Yeah, certainly is. I was going to say, Randy, well, let's go back to the point we were going to make before Mac was giving us a little bit of a worry there. That 40
before we were rudely interrupted by Mac.
Yeah. That 40 kilogram weight penalty, though, that balance performance adjustment, it's shown a little bit in this race here with those Audis. But when you get away from a track like this, when you go to Nürburgring, for example, the next race is at Nürburgring, what sort of effect will it have there? Because Monza seems to have almost exacerbated because you're on the throttle for so long, and because you've got some long radius corners as well as really slow corners where you're having to brake and then accelerate with that extra weight.
It's sort of an interesting one. It's because Monza's a weird track to really judge the BOP, in my opinion, because it's going to be the best track for McLaren. And with, like you said, it's going to make things difficult for the fuel economy, because that extra weight does make quite a big difference in terms of how long you can go on a stint. So I think the real first test of the balance of performance is likely going to come from the Nürburgring. But the thing to keep in mind is that the Audis, even with that 40 kilograms, and drivers I know are complaining about it, a couple of drivers I spoke to, one of which was from Coanda, were not too particularly happy about the BOP, and I know some others as well are really complaining that the BOP is sort of hampering everything. Well, we had every car within a second in qualifying, and there's still Audis running up near the pointy end of the field. So I think right now the BOP is working decently well, and I'm honestly decently satisfied with it.
Well, looking at this gap at the front, 0.4 of a second was taken out by Kashubi on the last lap, and I feel that Mercedes, because it has maybe been working its tyres a little bit better in that first run of this double stint of these tyres, it's really starting to come into play now, Connery. As I say, 0.4 of a second faster on that last lap. The lap before was 0.38 of a second faster. We're going to look at the lap times here. Jake Sturgios across the line of 48.259 for Jake. Let's compare that. Keik Shubey across the line, time in the line now, and it's a 47.842. Another 0.4 of a second come out. These tyres now are starting to assure for Jake Sturgios here, Connery.
Yeah, they are. The times are starting to drop a little bit, even though they are very, very quick lap times. At least when you look at the mid-pack times, even on 3-stint-old tires, he's still running faster than the vast majority of your mid-pack. So that's how quick Sturgis is running, but it's not quick enough right now to hold back the charging Keik Shubey. Neither is it enough to hold back Mac Backham once he gets himself sorted with some good couple of clear laps there, as Team 33, Keik Shubey, had to deal with a little bit of lap traffic there. That was Manderson down of that VRS Trans-Tasman racing car. That Ferrari getting well out of the way, just okay. But the closest battle out there on circuit right now is that VRS Clandestine Sport 1 versus Jim Racing White.
Yeah, certainly is at the moment. That close battle. Jack Sedgwick has made his final pit stop here for NX Racing Red, but yeah, certainly not been a good day for that red car after the earlier technical problems that they suffered in this race. But yeah, looking at that battle between the VRS Quantum Sport Klaus Kivikas and Jim Racing White, both cars same amount of, well, one lap less for Jim White. They pitted 1 lap later there, but certainly that gym car will be looking after its tyres a little bit better, you would imagine, with it being the BMW, with it having that extra downforce here, Randy, and they're able to just push that car just that little bit more in this final stint here. As another BMW on pit road, it's that Glacier North car with their final stop in this 3-stop strategy.
You're going to see him fall through the order here. It's going to be a pretty quick stop, though. If we just keep track of that pit stop time, I think they're likely going to be on the lane here for probably about 15 to 20 seconds, maybe 25, but it's not going to be very long. Still waiting. Should be fuel only as well, by the way, just on top of that, as cars just continue to cycle through. Gap, by the way, for your race lead has now clocked in at under 10 seconds. So KK should be doing a good job reeling in Sturgis out there with that race lead. Still waiting on this Glacier North car. And for Emil, last name I'm not even going to attempt. Just waiting for him to come off of pit road here. He's actually a longer stop than I thought it would be. 34 seconds for that BMW, and he rolls away. But looking at the lap time, still, Keikishibi is cycling through at 0.3 of a second per lap quicker every time by. And this is also relevant because this would be, I think, the first repeat winner for an event that we've had, because the season opener of this championship back in 2016 was won by Husingfeld Core Motorsports, would pretty much be the same exact roster of drivers. Alexander Voss drove in that team. Keikishibi at that time did not, but they won the season opener here at Monza 2 years ago, and they're looking, I think, to be the first team to repeat.
Yeah, they certainly are looking at it. By the way, the attempt that I would give it is Emil Rit van Neme is what I would say. I don't know about you, Connery, for the Glacier driver.
Well, you know, my past experiences of trying to pronounce Finnish names haven't gone very well at all. I think the Glacier Racing guys will tell you all about that one. So I'm not even going to attempt.
At least we're doing a better attempt at it than Cam Walsh, throwing him under the bus there.
He would fit Ford GT in that name somehow.
Yeah, he would, to be fair. We're still keeping an eye on this battle between VRS Quantum Sim Sport and Jim Racing GTR Centre White, as here comes Solari to the inside. Across the line they go once again. BMW versus Audi. Two German marks into the brakes for the first chicane, the Rettifilio, and through goes Solari then up into 5th place for Jim Racing White. Good race for them so far today. They did start the race in 20th place, so you've seen how some of these strategies have worked out, and also instants as well that have panned out. And just looking at your standings, only 4 cars out of the top 10 actually started in the top 10 here, and really it's only really the Inex Racing blue car that's not changing the position. It started in first and is still in first now, but for how long here, Randy? Because Team 33 is just gaining on that car all the way along, and we've got just under 40 minutes remaining in this race.
It's going to be a tight one, isn't it? It's, 40 minutes left or so once they get to start finish, and that Team 33 car is running really, really quick right now. But last time, though, Sturgis did a good job on the lap times. They did a 48.192, so keep it within about 2/10 is, I think, what Sturgis needs to do to try to maintain this lead best he can. This time he cycles through to a 48.275. Can Keikishibi go even quicker? Meanwhile, Mac Backham has pretty much just fallen backwards and has become almost irrelevant. 47.8 for Keikishibi, so a little under 0.4 of a second is what he's going to reel in that time through, and I think that's the sort of gap that K needs to reel in to sort of really make this possible and bring this gap down very quickly. So it's just a couple tenths per lap that these two drivers are really struggling. We know that K is going to be quicker, but what Jake needs to just try to do is make sure that gap is as minimal as possible. He's done a good job of it thus far.
I think it's showing just how much that Audi is struggling now, and this is a double stint of tyres. You look at the McLaren that is now on a triple stint of tyres, and they're doing comparable lap times, so it just goes to show that maybe that weight, and also how the Audi is having to use the tyres as well today, has really affected them here. And Matt Backham not able to gain on that Inex Racing blue car compared to the Mercedes, which, don't forget, has had a balanced performance adjustment as well. 5 kilograms extra put onto that Mercedes, so it's not that it's been left alone. That's had a little adjustment as well, Connery, but that Mercedes doing a fantastic job here so far. We'll look back, actually, because you've got Pure Racing. Well, having a look further down, because it's Pure Racing Team Red and FA Racing G2 Logitech. they're the two joint championship leaders, and somehow, considering that Pure Racing Team Red were in the wall at the start of the race and then spun around at the Parabolica a couple of laps later, are in 14th place here, Connery, ahead of their championship rivals, who have had a pretty nondescript race today, that has to be said.
Yep, they haven't really had too many problems. They did have a little bit of an incident earlier on because there does look like there's a little bit of damage to the front end of that car, a little bit of damage to the rear end of that car, especially to the rear diffuser. So that is not really a part of the car that you want to get damaged. You get a lot of your downforce from that rear diffuser, so it could be a little bit of a lack of pace as a result of that damage, but you've got to give credit to PRT Reds. But exactly as you said, they were spun around on the exit of the first chicane on the first lap, had to wait for the entirety of the field to pass them, and now look at where they are, looking to score what is decent points.
Dream Factory battling away Pure Racing Team Yellow down the inside into turn number 1, and Raul Diego making that move stick up into 9th place for Dream Factory. Good racing from those today. And where did they start? They started in 11th place, so they're up 2 positions in this one today. And those guys really putting on a good display from them today. We've not really seen them much this season, Randy. Getting involved, I believe they got involved in the shenanigans at the start of the last race. But here today, 9th place, good solid position for them to build on for the rest of the series.
Yeah, it's been a decent run for them today here. So they, I think you're right. I think they got caught up in that issue at Sebring. Granted, a lot of teams got caught up in that. So for the team that is still working to move their way forward, and I'm still just watching this battle for the race lead and watching that gap fall. It's down to 8.2 seconds, and I think it's going to tick under 8 seconds at the end of this lap as Jake's going to cycle through. Did he just run the same lap 2 laps in a row? No, he did not. I take that back. That's just me not doing a very good job. But Kei Kashibi goes to a 47.7, so a quick lap from Kei there means that gap comes down a lot more. So still watching this gap really come down is what I'm pretty much focusing on.
Yeah, 35 minutes remaining in this one, so we've got just over 1/6 of this race remaining. And we're seeing that Team 33 car gaining all the time in this final stint here. The VRS Sim Sport car of number 8 of Matt Backham is pretty much not able to keep up with them and is losing out. Thrustmaster Movano Red has made it past that Radicals Online car, so up to 7th place for Thrustmaster Movano Red ahead of Radicals Online. That's Tommaso Carla and Zach Thomas changing position there. Further down in your top 10, further down in your field, TTL eSports, Dylan Sharman. They've been having a bit of a nightmare today of TTL eSports, 17th, but behind that Teo Martin eSports car of Alvaro Ramiro, and they're battling away into that first chicane. Pretty close together as well, it must be said, between those two, but TTL, Connery, they'll be disappointed with today. They were starting up in 6th place, and they're down in 17th place right now.
Yeah, exactly, and well, they had their early issues, and I think there's Teo Martin eSports just not challenging, coming down into the La Roja chicane. I'm sorry, but yeah, it's kind of a little bit of a fall from grace here for TTL eSports. Of course, they won at Bathurst well, most of that was due to the help of Joshua Rogers. Let's just be honest about that one. But over the past 2 races here at Monza and also at Sebring, they just haven't really been there, and I think again it's just an issue with the depth of the roster that they have. They basically have the star driver of Josh Rogers, and then everyone else I don't think is at his level.
Good teamwork from Pure Racing Team to get the blue car in between them and that FA Racing car of Isaac Price, and Max Venig now holding an inside line. It's not going to make it easy for Isaac Price to get past, that's for sure. But Isaac Price, new tyres though, should be relatively easy for him to make the pass on that Pure Racing Team blue car as they head on to the pit straight once again. And well, across the line they go between them, and Isaac Price will duck out to the outside, you would imagine. Here he goes to make that move into turn number 1, but that blue car is staying there. It's going to compromise Centric, and contact between them is there. Just a half spin there. Isaac Price will be fuming in that car. Kicks the back end onto the dirt. We'll get a replay of that, I'm sure, because I do think that there was just the slightest hint of contact between the two of them there, Randy.
I think that was Isaac's fault, though. Max Winnig was on the full right-hand side of the circuit, so if Isaac Price is fuming, he's got no one else to be mad at than himself, as he did not have complete, he really cut across the nose of that Pure Racing Team kart. So unfortunate for Isaac, but it was his own doing there, in my opinion.
As we'll look on board, actually, from the Pure Racing Team blue car of Max Winnig. Here he is, and Isaac just doesn't quite give enough space, does he? Does that blue car just track out just a little bit? We don't. Well, that's for any post-race stewards to have a look at, that's for sure. We get one final look from the aerial coverage, of course, brought to you by Anwen Designs. And, well, away you go. And Isaac Price, 1.4 seconds behind now in that battle, so he's not going to be enjoying himself that much. Look at your race lead battle, by the way. Jake Sturgis 48.2 compared to a 47.8 that last lap here. So Kei Koshube still reeling him in here, and the question is, Connery, how much longer before Kei gets that slipstream, because he's starting to run out of time. We've got 31 minutes remaining in this race.
Yeah, and that looks like, by my current calculations, about 17 and a half laps to go. So he has a little bit of time to work with here, but you know, at this current rate, it won't be until what, 5 laps, well, even less than 5 laps before, before the end, where he'll be in a position to be able to challenge that NX Racing blue car. And you got to add to that the issue that he has right now, which is he's got a couple of bits of lap traffic separating himself and the race leader as well. You've got SRT Esports and you've got Vanderbilt Sim Racing Yellow as well to be concerned about. And Randy did bring up the good point just now that Mac Backham in that VRS Grandin Sim Sport number 8 car has picked up the pace over the past couple of laps, but I think it's a little bit of a case of too little too late.
As we're heading out for another lap once again, and Koshube, got a couple of lap traffic between him and Jake Sturgis. Across the line they go again. Sturgis 148.1, that's a little bit better from him on that lap, whereas Koshube 47.8 and Matt Backham 47.9. So yeah, as you say, picking up that pace just that little bit, but it's just too late, I think, from Backham to be picking up the pace right now. But we're under the half-hour mark now, just 29 minutes and 46 seconds remaining in this one, Randy. When are we reckoning then? When do you reckon that they're going to get to each other?
Probably with about 10 minutes to go, to be honest, because I think this is going to be a thing that ends up growing. I think that McLaren, every single lap that goes by, it's likely to get slightly worse and slightly worse on the tires. So every single time we circle around this racetrack, I think that McLaren is going to slow down just a little bit. And I think that Mercedes, even though it'll be having the same sort of effect, the fact that those tires are 1 hour newer, I think it's going to, pretty much pay off to their expect. If Mac Backham can somehow find some speed in the Audi, he might be able to make something of this as well. But he's 7 seconds down the road from that Team 33 machine. So it's going to be a move. It's going to be a pass. It's going to be decided, I think, within the last hour, if that Team 33 car can even get there.
I would be hoping that it's done within the last hour.
Last 10 minutes, excuse me.
Sweetie, see, you pick me up on mistakes, I'll pick you up on mistakes as well.
I had to wake up at 5 in the morning. You have no excuse.
By the way, Pure Racing Team Blue have had to give up that position in the end to Isaac Price. He just had a bit too much speed for him, and that's meant that they've moved up into 14th place now for that FA Racing G2 car, but they have lost out. Look at that now, 4.3 seconds behind Pure Racing Team Red. So all of that shenanigans and that mistake has cost them big in that battle against their championship rivals here in this series today. You are, of course, watching the Virtual Racing School GT iRacing World Championship Series here on iRacing Live, brought to you by RaceSpot TV. Keep up to date with everything going on this race. Check out live timing, racespot.tv/timing for everything that's going on. Keep an eye on those lap times as we're heading in towards the end of this race, and also get social with us as well. Who do you think's going to take the win in this one? Who do you think's going to take the final positions in that top 10, top 12 positions? Because there's some battling going on further down as well between the two gym cars. But I say that the 11th place gym car on fresher tyres, you would imagine, will be there just dragging that the number 44 car along between those guys as well. So yeah, let us know what you think is going to happen in this one. But yeah, certainly been an intriguing race, an intriguing strategy fight. And I tell you what, Kekshubei's just lost out a little bit of time here, Connery, on that last lap. He only gained about 0.2 of a second, so that gap, that lap delta difference has just come down a little bit in that last lap.
Yeah, as he's starting to hit a little bit of traffic here, the traffic I mentioned before, SRT eSports and Vendaval Sim Racing Yellow, he could, you know, in some situations, you can actually use this to your advantage to just get those slingshots down the straights here. So make sure you catch them on the straights or rather than in the corners. That's the ideal situation that Kekshubei is looking for right now. He will get the effect of the draft from this far back, just to get, you know, improving his straight line speed all the way down this pit straight. And now he's got to hope he doesn't get caught behind either of these Audis coming through the chicanes.
Yeah, that'll be the hope for him. He'll be hoping that they're compliant with him when he comes to make the moves in the back markers, and that gap at the front now is down to under 6 seconds. It's 5.8 seconds between your front two of this race. That gap just continues to reduce here as Kekshubei bounces over those curbs at the De La Roja. You've got to be careful, because if you take too much of the curbs there, Randy, you end up with a corner cutting penalty that iRacing automatically applies if you do take too much of the curbs.
Do need to be a little bit careful there, but I think the main worry for Kekshubei right now is getting around this traffic, because these two cars are fighting for position between Luca and Juan Lopez. It's Vendaval and SRT eSport. SRT is going to pull out of the slipstream. That's going to allow Kekshubei to go up the inside into Ascari, but while they're giving him the line, they're not exactly ducking off the throttle a little bit early. K is going to be able to cut back into the racing line, though. So this first car down, he'll have Juan Lopez he'll have to deal with here in a couple moments. But Jake Sturgis, last trip around the racetrack, as the fuel was burned off of that car, it's actually done the opposite of what I thought it was going to do. He did a 48.0 that last trip around, while Kekshubei did a 47.7. If Jake would have done one of his typical lap times, a 2 or a 3, that would have been pretty much a big gain for Kekshubei. But luckily for Jake, he managed to put together a phenomenal lap to bring that lap time down. And let's see what he does this time through. Another 48.0. This is going to be an 0.31. So that McLaren has gotten quicker over the course of this stint, and Kekshubei goes to a 5.
Yeah, look at that 47.5. So he's really used that slipstream to his advantage of that Audi in front of him, Audi behind him as well. So even though he was compromised into the Ascari chicane, he's still able to pull out another 4.4 of a second out of that lead. 5.3 seconds is your lead at the moment. And don't forget, back markers in this series, they don't have to move out the way with the blue flags. The blue flags, they're just advisories. It's just to let you know that there is a car about to put a lap on you there. As Pure Racing Team Blue, they've had an incident. They're slow, and it's on the exit of this Ascari chicane. And hopefully we'll get a look at that, because Max Venig hit the curb on the inside of the exit of the chicane, got it all wrong, into the barrier on one side, lost control of the car, and into the barrier on the other side, Connery. That's a big incident, and that's possibly the biggest incident bar the opening lap incident at the start.
Yeah, it's very rare that you see people actually go fully off there. You can see people go wide off onto the paved runoff there, but not so wide that they actually go into the gravel and into the grass there. So Venig, that is going to be a very, very damaged race car for him, and I'll be very surprised if he didn't get some form of meatball flag for that one, since it was very, very hard into the Armco barrier that he went. So. But the thing is that that Audi isn't front engine, so even though he went into it at the front of the car, that engine should be okay.
Should be okay indeed. Pure Racing Team Yellow, by the way, have got to the back of that Radicals Online car. They're putting the pressure on that BMW. They want that 9th place, does the PRT Yellow car. Mr. a couple of tenths between them as they go through the Ascara chicane. That's where the BMW does have just that slight bit of an advantage with the downforce of that BMW, but it's these straights now. That's where the Audi just has that slight advantage, plus the slipstream there as well from being behind and into the Parabolica. That BMW took a very abrupt entry into it. It's compromised its line through the Parabolica there, but able to get the wider line, run out the corner, but it's down the straight here. Use that slipstream here. TTL eSports, they are having issues as well by the looks of things, but it's still this battle for 9th place that we'll keep focused on here. Down the inside goes Mark Alkeman up into 9th place for that Pure Racing Team yellow car. So gaining position, and Randy, that last lap again, 47.4 for Kei Kashube.
He definitely is. It was a very quick lap. It was somewhat assisted by the draft from Vendaval. Sort of caught Wani Lopez at the optimal time over the course of the lap, just coming out of the Ascari chicane, and Juan made it easy. So for Jake Sturgis, he likely is going to be well aware of how that gap is coming down, is going to be pushing that McLaren to the absolute limit. The fight for 9th and 10th, and watching this Radicals car, though, I suspect this Radicals car is going to continue to fall through the field, because we know that that Zach Thomas is fuel saving to the max, and there are two hungry Jim Racing BMWs behind him, one being driven by Jorge Blasco, the other one Dado Opkek. So the two of those cars, I think, will make short work of that Radical BMW when they get a long enough straightaway, because Zach is lifting about 100 meters early into all these braking zones.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw him come in about an hour and 3 minutes remaining, so he's having to do extreme fuel saving in that Radicals car. And of course, the Jim yellow car has got newer tyres as well. Going to look to the inside, down towards the Parabolica, and there he goes down the inside, and the other Jim car's going to follow him through. That's an opportunistic move there from the Jim Black car. Up track, able to make the move. It was a bit of a late move from him, it must be said, but you look at how much quicker he was into the braking zone there because of that Radicals car having to lift and coast through there, and that means that both Jim cars up a position into what's that, 10th and 11th place for those two. Kei Kashube, by the way, that gap is 4.8 seconds, but it was only about 0.2 of a second corner he gained on that last lap, because Jake Sturgis, crucially, now into the 47s himself.
It seems like Jake is immune to old tyres at this stage. A 47.9 on that last lap. That was what a couple of drivers had been running with newer tyres. And he is on tyres that have done what is going to be, after he comes across the line, 88 laps old. And we're only going to get what is going to be about, we're looking to get 99 laps, so not quite the 100 laps there to take us over the century. But Sturgis looking very comfortable right now. He has had a couple of issues getting the traction down off the corners, well, especially coming out of the first chicane. But apart from that, it seems like the tyre wear is looking relatively good there on that iNEXT Racing McLaren, as it's a 48 flat that last time by a 47.8 for Kei Kashube in the number 33. I don't think this is going to happen for Kei.
Randy, is it just me, or is that Audi behind Kei distracting him a little?
Well, it shouldn't be, because Juan's not making any moves. What Juan did is, when that Mercedes went by to put him on a lap down, remember that Juan Lopez is racing with that SRT eSport Audi behind. He's just tucked in and using the slipstream to help kind of spread that gap out. So for Kei Kashube, I just think he just doesn't have the pace right now in the Mercedes. We know that the McLaren would be the quickest car here at Monza. It's got the highest top speed. It really is sort of the best car for this circuit. We've seen that pretty much all 3 years of this championship. Ironically enough, I don't think it's actually won any of those races. I think either bad luck or better drivers have sort of reigned supreme. Oh, no, I take that back, because Cora was in a McLaren last year. But the McLaren is super good here at Monza, and Jake Sturgis is doing a good job. I think he's probably used to old tires, because him and his brother PJ, they've raced the likes of midgets and super modifieds in the past, and those are sorts of cars where you do not get new tires. So I think Jake's probably just used to having the old rubber for about a 1 hour sprint in his racing career, at least in the real life.
As well, we're heading towards the end of this race, and 18 minutes remaining in this one. And still, we're keeping an eye on how this one develops. A gym battle is going on with Pure Racing Team Yellow now. So Elkman getting involved in the battle with the two gym cars. That's 9th, 10th and 11th as they come out the second Lesmo, heading down towards the Ascara chicane once again. They tried to make the move into the first chicane, into the Rettifilio. It didn't quite work out for the Gym Racing Yellow car, and that meant that their teammate in the black car was able to just gain on them a little bit as they head out the Ascara chicane once again. Sorry, Randy?
K just took 6/10 out of NX. So it's sort of a weird situation right now because Jake didn't slow down at all. Jake did a 48.097. He's been super consistent over this stint. The lap times has not varied very much over the last 5 to 10 laps. There's a point where I think the car struggled on high fuel, but as it's burned off, the lap times for Jake have only gotten quicker and quicker. So maybe Kei Kashubi is finding a bit here in the super late stages of the stint, but if Kei can do those sorts of laps, because the only time we've seen him in the 47.4 this stint was in Slipstream, he can do those sort of laps. He's in for a very, very, I think, fun battle here towards the end of the race because it's now down under 4 seconds. But he has to keep it in that about a half of a second, 6/10 of a second gain every single lap. He can't reel Jake in, only being about 2/10 or 3/10 quicker every circle around the track.
As yet, we're heading into the closing stages of this race. Then it's certainly it's difficult to call this one. And you would imagine that if Kei Kashubi does get there, the slightly newer new tyres, should I say, they should give him the edge in that battle as we head on through the final quarter of an hour of the race here. As I've been saying all race, RaceSpot.tv/timing. Keep up to date with everything that's going on in this one as we're coming down to the closing stages. You'll be able to see the difference in those laps between the two cars. Jake Sturgis once again a 48.043, Kei Kashubi 47.710 across the line. There you go. So that's another 3/10 taken out by that Team 33 car. VRS SimSport, they've dropped off the battle really. They're 9 seconds behind Kei Kashubi now. So they're out of it in terms of the race win, but a podium is going to be a good position for them. Thrustmaster Bavano, Red, by the way, have been gaining on the VRS SimSport #1 car for 6th place in this race. Keeping an eye on those two as they're heading into the first chicane. So definitely these two, this battle's not over yet for the #1 and #3 car. Dream Factory in 8th place, not a bad run from them so far today, and they'll be enjoying themselves. And Gym Racing Yellow have made the move on Pure Racing Team Yellow. So the two cars named Yellow, they've swapped positions. 9th place for Jim, 10th place for Pure Racing Team, and you'd imagine that the Jim Black car is wanting to get that position as well, to get both Jim cars into the top 10 here. But Connery, it's been a cracking race so far and got the potential of a showdown finish here.
Yeah, very good potential as long as Kei Kashubi can keep pulling these lap times out of the bag. So it's going to be a close run thing by the end, you know, if Kei Kashubi can get himself there or not. But, you know, we've heard from Justin Brunner in the chat, part of that NX Racing team, thinking that this isn't going to happen for them, so they're not entirely confident that Sturgis can take this race win. But I've got to say, they are in the driving seat right now. You know, it's one thing for Kei Kashubi to get up to the back of Sturgis. We're going to pull out the Murrayism for one more time here, but it's going to be a completely other thing to try and get past.
Do you know, I was reading an article that was online that was reminiscing about Stellan Moss winning at the Mexican Grand Prix, I believe it was. As now we've got a battle for 6th and 7th going on here, and Thrustmaster Movano pulling out to Masakala, looking to the inside of that VRS SimSport car, and Thrustmaster Movano Red up into 6th place. But everyone was no, it was Argentinian Grand Prix. That was it. I knew it was in somewhere in the Americas, but
I was about to say Mexico's not in South America.
No, that's why I said Americas.
But you almost.
No, I didn't. It was the Albacini Grand Prix back in the late 50s, and Sterling Moss wasn't expecting to win the race unless they didn't take tyres in the race. Everyone else took tyres, and they imagined that the British driver would come through and take tyres, and he didn't. He ended up winning the race, but he was having to drive down the grass to keep his tyres cool enough to be able to make it to the end. And round date, just to give you an image, the front tyres were down to the canvas in that race. That was how hard he was pushing those tyres in that race. We've seen a sort of similar position, not quite to the same extent, but we've seen a similar position here with that Inex Racing blue car taking no tyre change here.
It's definitely been the situation. It was a 47.9 2 laps ago for that NX car, and Kate Kashubi has picked up the pace. 0.4 of a second is what he's taken out of that NX car the last 2 laps, and now the gap is under 3 seconds. We have roughly 13 minutes, so about 7 laps, 8 laps still remains in this race, and I think with about 3 laps to go, if Kate Kashubi can continue reeling the gap in like that, Kate Kashubi will start getting a hint of slipstream. So I think we're going to be in for about 2 lap or so fight where that Mercedes from Team 33 is going to be in that draft, and Kate Kashubi is going to be trying his hardest to get to Jake Sturgis, who is still doing a fantastic job catching a bit of the curve coming out of the second chicane. That cost him a little bit of time, but Kate Kashubi is seeing that gap come down more and more, and I'm sure is being pushed by his teams to come on, reel that gap in.
As well, Kashubi, he's got the bit between his teeth, that's for sure. Through the second Lesmo he goes. A slight bit of damage on the left-hand side. I think that's from clattering these curbs here at the chicanes. It will cause a little bit of damage there, but yeah, it certainly isn't affecting him, that's for sure, as we're heading towards the Escara chicane. 11 minutes remaining in this one. It was a 3-hour, effectively a sprint race for this championship here around Monza, but it's always tricky, it's always challenging around this track to get the job done here. But Kashubi, how important is it, Connery, that 1, he can see his competitor ahead, but 2, his competitor's got to get around lap traffic?
Yeah, Jake Sturgis having to deal with the Audi there of Carlos Dieguez, the Zenith high-speed number 26 car gets itself well out of the way, so that lets the NX Racing car get itself by. But you're absolutely right there, Paul. Team 33, Kei Kashubi, can now see quite clearly Jake Sturgis a couple of seconds down the road, and for some drivers that does act as a bit of a carrot on the stick. They can see what they're chasing. It's one thing to be chasing numbers, be it fuel numbers or lap time numbers, but as soon as you can see a competitor ahead of you, you know that there's no more strategy to play out. That's when some drivers really start to find another gear.
As we head into that final 10 minutes of the race then, you can see that gap, but now crucially that lap traffic is in between the 2 leaders here. But you often find, Randy, that the leader has a little bit of a worse time getting past some lap traffic, because the lap traffic suddenly gets woken up to the fact that there's faster cars coming through.
Potentially, however, that slipstream has helped Jake Sturgis a little bit, because that Zenith car gave Jake a hint of draft, and because of that, Jake Sturgis able to do a 47.797, so a very quick lap when he tucked in behind that lime green Zenith Audi. Next in line is actually going to be the Bardal Sim Racing car driven by Nito Nascimento. That car is not very far up the road from Jake Sturgis either. It's important to keep in mind, though, that it's going to go the other way, and Kei Kashubi is now going to have a hint of slipstream from that Zenith high-speed machine and might be able to reel in Jake Sturgis just that little bit more because of it. But regardless, it's going to be about 5 laps remaining when we get to the line, and it's going to be very, very close. And lap traffic, even if they don't intentionally even if they don't get in the way or slow down the leader, they may still be a factor just with the slipstream here at Monza.
Bear in mind, also look further back as well, the battle between 4th and 5th, there's just 0.3 of a second between those 2 on track as we're heading towards the end here. Martin Solari and William Levesque, that's Inex Racing Yellow and Jim Racing White, 4th and 5th between the 2 of them, and Levesque is at the front of those 2 at the moment, but his lap times have been slower than that Jim car, and Jim in that slipstream. Solari using the slipstream to his advantage. Across the timing line they go, and will he make a move in towards turn number 1? He'll pull out to the right here, down towards the Rettifilio once again. we're running out of laps in this one, running out of time. On the brakes hard into that chicane, gets the job done there. Jim Racing White up into 4th place overall in this race. That battle won't be over with, but you would imagine that Jim have just had the edge all the way through these last few laps to be able to get that move done. As well, 8 minutes remaining in this one. Kei Koshube 2 seconds. The back gap is under 2 seconds, I should say. So those lead battle now, Connery, it's really coming to a head here. Can he get it done though? I don't feel it's just quite close enough at this point. He just needs to be that little bit closer here at this point in the race.
If there's one place where I've seen that Mercedes gain a ton of time, it's actually on the braking zones, especially coming down in towards turn number 1. It can just brake so much later and so much better than any of the cars that has come up against. I think Kei Koshube just has to use that as the weapon of choice once he gets back onto the back bumper of Sturgis. Even though he can't compete with him really in a straight line, he can do it on the brakes down the inside, do a Daniel Ricciardo move.
As we go across the line again, let's check out the lap times. Jake Sturgis a 47.9, Kei Koshube 47.5. So there's lap time, that gap is still just continuing to get closer here as they head onto the brakes once again for that first chicane. 4/10 taken out of that lap time, as you can see on screen. And Randy, I'm rubbing my hands with glee. This is exactly what we wanted, and this is what we were hoping would happen towards the end of this race when we got to the end of that first stint.
Yeah, I think this is exactly what we were all hoping for in terms of this tire strategy. I think we expected the player to be reeling in this NX car to be VRS Queen of Sport number 8, but I'll take a Mercedes driven by ex-Lucing Felcore Motorsports guys. They don't have a team yet, so they'll still represent that. I know there's still a lot of love for that team from that group. Just still waiting on the announcement of where those drivers actually went. But for Kei Koshube, as he goes through that first Lesmo, they're going to head into the second. All these corners is where that Mercedes is going to be making up the ground. When will that NX car, though, catch Nito Nascimento? Because that's going to be a bit of a buff for that McLaren for a very short time. It'll give just that sort of little hint of extra speed that might be the difference maker. It should be about 3 laps left, I think, when we get to the line. If Kei can continue reeling this in at 4/10 of a lap, he should be able to get there. It's going to all depend on when he can get the slipstream, though.
There's been a change of position, by the way. 7th place now for Dream Factory, so they've moved up a position on VRS Quantum Sport number 1. You've got a change of position as well. Isaac Price and Radicals. God blimey, Isaac Price was leaping over the curbs there at the De La Roja. He's trying his best to just pull closer to that Pure Racing Team Red, trying to knock out the advantage that they've got there. You've had battling further down with Glacier as well. They've been battling with Thrustmaster Movano Yellow. They've changed positions on this last lap as well. So changes all the way down this field. Looking at your leaders though, 47.8 for Jake Sturgis, 47.5 for the Kei Koshube in that Team 33 car. 4 minutes 43 seconds, should I say, left remaining in this one. It's all coming to a head here, Connery, and he'll just be starting to feel the slightest of effect of that slipstream of the car in front. But crucially for Jake Sturgis, yep, that's it. He's got the lap traffic now between him and the car of Team 33 here, Connery.
Yeah, that was absolutely huge for Jake Sturgis because he couldn't afford that Bardal Sim Racing to still be ahead coming down into the De La Roja because of the amount of pace that Bardal Sim Racing car does not have. Would have held up. Sorry, once I get my sentences right. That NX Racing Blue car, but now this is the case of Kei Koshube. How quickly can he get past that Bardal Sim Racing car and then go on the hunt for NX in the dying moments of this race? We'll have 2 laps to go the next time we head our way across the line, and Bardal, they're not even going to let go of the back of VNX here. They're going to stick it out to the end as well.
Yeah, they're wanting to just get pulled forward because they are in a battle with the car behind Kei Koshube, don't forget. So they're involved in their own battle there, Bardal and Vendevil Sim Racing Yellow. But we're heading around the Parabolica now. We're going to be starting the penultimate lap here, and you can see visibly the gap on the screen here. We don't really need to see the graphic, but we'll be able to show you anyway. Across the line, 47.8 for Jake Sturgis.
I think this is 3 to go. I think this is going to be 3 to go.
2 to go on GRT.
I would say 2 to go, because we've got 3 minutes remaining in this race, and it's 1:47 for a lap. So Koshube needs to make his move on that car in front. That lap traffic, get by them, and then make the move on Jake Sturgis as we're heading around Curva Grande once again. The penultimate time down towards the Della Roggia, and that Bardol car doesn't move over there for Kei Koshube. Out the Della Roggia, now they move out the way. Now you've got the race battle between your front 2 cars. We saw a close battle at Sebring between 2 cars for half an hour. We're seeing here how that Team 33 car has been just gaining on that Inex Racing blue car, heading towards the Ascara chicane once again for the penultimate time here. Connery, what's your call? Who do you think's going to get this one done?
It's impossible to call at this stage, you know. Do you side with the defensive drive of Inex Racing Blue, or do you trust in Kei Koshube's offensive capabilities? That gap down now to within 9/10 of a second, getting close to 8/10 of a second. Kei Koshube will be feeling the slipstream now from Inex Racing Blue. I think he's going to be a bit too far back to make a move down in towards turn number 1, so that may be the deciding factor here, but he really needs to go 150% out there on circuit right now. White flag is going to be in the air this time by as they come across the line. It's going to be 7/10 of a second separating P1, P2.
Yeah, 1:30 remaining is across the timing line there. So you would imagine that is going to be the final. This is going to be the final lap of the race here. You can see the gap getting closer and closer. Look at that McLaren spitting flames at the Mercedes, but it's having to brake a lot earlier because of those older tyres. But look at this now, through into Curva Grande once again. It's all about the exit at that first chicane. Kei Koshube set in front of him, looking to make that move, but Jake Sturgis, he's an experienced driver. They're all experienced drivers in this series, but he's one of the most versatile drivers, is Sturgis, as they go through Della Roggia once again into Lesmo 1. Koshube within 7/10 of a second. It's not close enough, you would imagine, at the moment. But now look at the exit he got out of Lesmo 1, out of Lesmo 2. This is where he needs to carry the speed all the way down towards the Ascara chicane, and it's going to perhaps be a move into the Parabolica on the final corner of this race, in towards the Ascara chicane once again. Sturgis moving left, moving right, trying to hold on to that lead as we go through the Ascara chicane. There's 14 seconds left. Jim Racing, by the way, have had an accident with the Azuri car. Lead. But the lead battle here, look at this now. Jake Sturgis, really defensive driving. Koshube looking to the outside. He's going to try and make the move around the outside the Parabolica. That's not going to work, but he's going to try and get the cutback here. Get the run out the Parabolica. That's beautifully done there by Koshube. There's a little bit of door banging as well as they go across the line. Is it going to be Team 33 across the line? Yes, it is. Team 33 across the line by 0.063 of a second over the team of Inex Racing Blue. What a finish there across the line. Fantastic stuff. Kei Koshube just did enough there to get the win today here. As we'll look further down, Thrustmaster Movano Red, they've been battling with Dream Factory. Dream Factory have been battling through the top 10. They've made it into 6th place in the end here in this race. But wow, what a finish there. Randy, you've got to take your hat off there to Jake Sturgis to be able to do that on such old tyres.
Yeah, wonderfully done by Jake Sturgis through that entire stint. He needs to come out of here with his head held high. The closest finish, I think, in VRS/Blancpain GT World Championship history. 0.06 of a second decided it at the line, and I think the closest to that has been about a second or two between race leaders. So for Jake Sturgis, it was a fantastic race, but Kei Koshube, we hyped him up last season. He finally gets his first win, and that last lap, I thought that a mistake from Kei Koshube through the second chicane. He got a bit of oversteer after landing off the second chicane. Thought that was going to be the end of it, but Sturgis got a big bite of oversteer through the Ascari chicane, and that's what potentially opened the door. And Kei Koshube, there's only a Mercedes car width door to the inside through the Parabolica. He went for it, a little bit of contact, but overall that was clean. And because of that, This team, they repeat here at Monza. Second time we've seen this group win. Fantastic run. And Monza, I know a lot of the drivers complain that it's boring and that it's bad. They're just all a bunch of whiners. It produces, I think, the best racing for this series.
Absolutely, and Connery, those tyres, it was just that little bit too long for those tyres on that McLaren today, but one heck of an effort there from that Inex Racing blue car.
It was a brilliant effort from Sturgis and Brunner, but wow, that move for Kei Gashube to be under that sort of pressure, to have that gap open at just the last minute. It was expertly timed there by the ex-Huizen Velco Motorsports driver. He couldn't have timed that one any better, as I have no doubt we're getting a couple of replays of that final move. The move wasn't on. The cutback move wasn't on. I thought Sturgis was able to hold that inside line, but no, he just drifted up in the middle of the corner. Kei Gashube saw that, slot his car in, and drag race to the line. That he also won. Kei Gashube, take a bow.
Well, there we go. That's the end of this Virtual Racing School GT World Championship race here. Round number 3 in the series, and let's take a look through your final results here. And well, it is Team 33. It shows us team on our graphics, but it's definitely Team 33 who get the win here today by, look at that, 0.063 of a second across the line from that Simacube Inex Racing Blue Jake Sturgis. VRS Quantum Sim Sport, 3rd place, a good podium position there for the number 8 car, with Jim Racing GTR Centre White in 4th. Thrustmaster Movano Red ended up in 5th place, only just though ahead of the Dream Factory, who made a great comeback in that final stint to get 6th place. Simicube Inex Racing Yellow then was the next one, started 27th and finished in 7th place. Great result for them today. VRS Quantum Sim Sport number 1 in 8th. Jim Racing GTR Centre Yellow in 9th, with Jim Racing GTR Centre Yellow, GTR Centre Black, in 10th place. Pure Racing Team Red, they started this one off in 10th place. They had an instant, they were spun round at the first corner, they were stunned dead last at the end of the first lap. They've ended up finishing 11th, a brilliant drive for them to recover there. Pure Racing Team Yellow in 12th place with that F8 Racing G2 Logitech G car in 13th. 14th place for the SDK Apex Racing UK car, with Radicals Online in 15th with the 17 car. TTL Esports, disappointing day for them, down in 16th, with Vendevil Sim Racing White in 17th. Simicube Inex Racing Red, they had technical issues in the first stint of the race, they're down in 18th, with Pure Racing Team Black in 19th, and Glacier North with a 3-stop strategy rounding out the top 20. The rest of your results up on stream here. But what an event it has been today. Don't go anywhere though, because we will be having the post-race show coming up here on iRacing Live. You have been watching the Virtual Racing School GT iRacing World Championship Series here on iRacing Live, brought to you by RaceSpot TV. What a breathtaking finish, and hats off to Team 33 getting the job done at the death of this race. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back.
Team racing allows multiple iRacing members to team up and race together just like in real-world endurance series. Teammates can share driving duties, spot for one another, or be a crew chief. Team racing is free both to join a team and to create one. Each teammate races on his or her own computer from wherever they want to. Your teammates can be anywhere in the world, and changing drivers mid-race is as easy as a click of a button. iRacing features team endurance events ranging from just a couple of hours to 24 hours in length. So, if you fancy taking part in an iRacing endurance race in the future, you can learn more about team racing on the teams page on the member website.
Well, we've caught our breath there, and what an amazing finish to that brilliant race there. Congratulations to Team 33 on the win there, as I say, by 0.63 of a second. You are welcome back to the post-race show here at the Virtual Racing School GT Racing World Championship Series. Paul Smith here alongside me, Conor Maddock and Randy Cheneth, Hugo Lewis behind the cameras in the production truck, and well, what a finish to the race there, and we're going to have a quick word with some of your drivers who are taking part in that. And Randy, why don't we take it away, your race winner, Kei Kashubi?
Well, I'm stood by it with the driver, that number Team 33 car, number 33. Kei, what a run from you guys. I have to ask, though, when it came down to the pit stops, did you have any hope that you would potentially be able to walk away with this at the second stop, or did you think it was going to be Coanda and NX out in front?
Yeah, it was an exciting race. I have to say, after the stop, I was a bit concerned because tire wear is not one of the strengths of the Mercedes, but we were helped a lot by the weather, I think. So the car worked nicely, and yeah, also INX went for 3 stints on 1 tire set. So yeah, of course we were hoping. We didn't know exactly if the fuel will be enough, so I had to do a bit of saving and catching up at the same time. So yeah, and then to have a pass at the last corner is really it was really intense. Yeah.
Now, talking about that strategy, you know, one of the things that I think when we get to the post-race show I'm going to talk about is that VRS Quintessensport number 8 car. A lot of people are hyping up the way that Mitchell and Mac drove, but if I'm honest, that number 8 car has been on the wrong side of strategy for basically the past season. Think back to the Spa 6-hour race last year. Sebring, they'd made the same mistake, and I think they did it to themselves here. Then you had NX, who sort of went the exact opposite route, went basically no tires the entire race, which I don't think anyone thought would have worked when things first started. So what's your opinion on the strategies? You guys, I know, went the same route as Coanda, but you had much more impressive pace at the end of stint. Why do you think that is?
I have to say I was really surprised about that. I thought Mac would pass me in no time. Basically because we were always bad in the second stints in the last races. So as I said, the weather helped a lot, and I think maybe, of course the balance of performance plays a role as well. But there's a lot of talking about that. I won't go into that because I think you have to take the chance when you got it. I think we have had a good setup. We had a good car. We were competitive and we took the chance, and that's all I can say, really.
Now, talking about that group, since the mass exodus for you guys from Husingfeld Core Motorsports, there's been a lot of rumblings about where you guys are going. Is there any sort of inclination? Can you give any hint about where you lot have gone? I figured that you guys would have come out with an announcement by now. You guys have just missed the whole marketing gig of if you had announced it a week ago, you come in, get a big win in your first race with the new team. What's taking so long?
Yeah, we thought so as well, I have to say. It's a bit that didn't go as planned, but that doesn't mean that we have no options now. I think we have a good future ahead of us, but I cannot talk about this, but it will be exciting. It would have been nice to announce it beforehand, but time just ran out for us. And yeah, but I think we can do well in future races as well. And
congratulations, Kay, on the big win. I know we hyped you up last season, and I know you guys went with the Mercedes last year. It didn't quite work out. The BOP was absolutely terrible, and there's been some complaints from people that definitely benefited from the BOP last season. But this season's BOP, so that's pretty funny. So before we let you go, any shout-outs, any plugs? Who gets it done for you at insert team name here?
Yeah, of course, thank you to Alex. He did a great job. He qualified well. He did a great first stint. To our team, we are still together, obviously. And yeah, also congrats to Inex and Koanda. It was a nice race. Thank you to you guys. And yeah, I hope we can go on similarly.
Well, there's your race winner, Kay Kashubi, Paul.
Yeah, well done to Kay for that one. And well, I know Randy will be not Randy, Connery. Good grief,
I'm doing all the work.
No, it's Connery that's going to take this interview. It's with your third place finish team, VRS Koanda SimSpot, Matt Backham and Mitchell de Jong.
Yeah, once we get those guys in here, we'll be able to talk a little bit with the Koanda drivers here, and we'll go first to you, Mac. And that race that seemed to be a rather comfortable one for you, even though you finished 12 seconds off the lead. But finally, it is a good result, even though, considering the fact that you had not the greatest first two races of the season.
Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with the result, I must say. It kind of feels like a win. The Audi was just not up to the speed with some of the other cars today, I feel. So I'm really happy we finished third. We gained a lot of points on people in front of us in the championship. And just looking at where we were in the first two races team-wise, I think we've really come along with the setup, and I think we can really put a lot better results in the future.
Yeah, exactly. We do have a rather heated discussion, shall we say? I think is the biggest understatement that I've ever made. Currently going on around about the balance of performance, in the chat there, but. What is your own opinion on this? I don't think I've seen you say anything in regards to that topic, but can we judge this version of balanced performance on a track such as Monza, which usually throws up these odd races anyway? Shouldn't we wait until perhaps next race to form a better opinion?
Well, we're getting the BOP on a track-by-track basis, and I think at least for this track, the BOP was completely wrong. I think everyone knew the McLaren was going to be super strong here. It was super strong here for us in preseason testing. The Mercedes was kind of an unknown because I haven't really driven that since it got all those updates, but it looked very good today. And I just think the weight added to the Audi for this race was completely unnecessary. If anything, I would say the McLaren needed a bit of weight. I think just seeing the Audis that were up front in qualifying, like Mitchell, Ricardo, I think that speaks testament to how good a lot of the Audi drivers are this season.
Yeah, I did say I got news of the ballast before the race and saw 40 kilograms for the Audi, and I thought that does sound like a bit much, I will admit. So I will disagree with Randy there that the balance of performance is okay, but in terms of the rest of the season, now you've got yourself up and running in that Koanda car. You've got the races in the future. You've got the Nürburgring coming up, which is going to be a big race for you guys. So how are you looking for those sorts of races?
Yeah, well, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I hope we don't get extra kilos on the Audi again. I think the Nürburgring in general is probably a stronger track for the Audi than Monza is anyway. And I'm not even sure what tracks are after that, but yeah, we'll always just do our best and obviously try to come out as the first Audi. And if we so happen to also be able to win in the Audi, then of course we're going for the win.
Yeah, it was a good result for you guys considering, and we also do have Mitchell de Jong here as well in the commentary booth taking those first two stints for the VRS Koanda SimSport number 8 car. And how were your stints, Mitchell?
They were quite okay, I think. The qualifying lap was pretty okay. I had a bit of a mistake in first chicane on my lap, and another 10th loss a bit later on, so we could have done a little bit better in qualifying, but I think we definitely didn't really expect to even start fourth. that as well at the start, it really worked out for us to get into P2 right away and basically just be able to follow NX Blue in their draft and kind of get to our fuel target and try to build a little bit of a gap to the cars behind. So it was pretty straightforward. A little bit different strategy, of course. So we had to kind of come through the field a bit again, and I think we were kind of expecting and very hopeful that looking good on the final stint, but we definitely didn't anticipate NX Blue to triple stint there. So yeah, I think overall, like Max said, this is like a win for an Audi here. So it was a great race, I think.
Speaking of the strategy, and it was a very, very strategic race today at Monza. Were you expecting so many people to go onto the the triple stint strategy? I think we were expecting. I know for sure everyone in the commentary booth was expecting. Okay, we'll see double stinting the tires, and that's probably about it. But I think a couple of factors played into this to mean that some drivers could, or rather quite a few teams actually, could triple stint the tires. It's because the track temperature was quite cold. So was the triple stint strategy on the cards for Coanda at any point, or did you just go into this race thinking, this is what we're going to do and we're going to execute it like this?
It's always quite difficult. I think for all the Audis, pretty much just double stint was pretty much the max we could do. The wear and the way the car reacts to the cliff and everything just was not beneficial at all. So compared to the other cars, it's quite difficult to say without really knowing how testing is, and I don't think any of us really expected that, but it was really cold, so things like this can happen. But yeah, I think we kind of wrote it off, especially after Bathurst when we tried it, a different track of course and situation, but I don't think it was available for any of the Audis at all today, so I think it was more of something that just works for a few select ones.
Yeah, I think that's what we saw. So is there anyone else you want to thank? Anyone who works behind the scenes at Coanda there to make sure you guys get these decent results?
Yeah, of course. Big thanks to everyone in the team, everyone that was driving and preparing behind the scenes that even didn't race. Obviously, we had a really difficult start to the season, and everyone's kind of pulling together nicely, trying to get things figured out. So yeah, big thanks to everyone there. Mac did an awesome job. Big thanks to him. And of course our spotters, Philip especially, and also Dave was there helping out a lot, even though he didn't race. And yeah, all our partners, Virtual Racing School, Huizingveld, and Warren Design, SimQuip, Feedback, Joe Real Timing, and of course you guys RaceSpot for putting this on for us.
Well, that was Mitchell de Jong, and of course a little bit earlier on, Mac Ackham for that VRS Coanda SimSport number 8 car. P number 3 for them when all is said and done, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll just get a chance to have a quick word with PJ Sturgis from the NX Racing Yellow Car, and Randy is standing by with him.
I'm stood by with PJ from NX Racing Yellow. I believe the third highest BMW at the end of this one. PJ, BOP was certainly interesting. You guys in the BMW looked quick. How was it from your perspective?
Yeah, that was pretty unexpected to come into Monza with the BMW and be able to pull off a top 10 like that, but definitely happy with that kind of result after starting back there in 27th. But dodging that first lap wreck and missing that really kind of helped us get a good start off to the race, which we probably, looking back, we probably could have changed up our strategy to take tires on the first stop, and I think we might have had a little bit for the Jim Racing guys and the Movano guys there at the end. But all in all, P7 is good. For the championship after kind of what happened at Sebring.
Now, talking about this race, the weather was somewhat interesting. We saw a lot of people. I mean, I know your teammates in the NX Blue car, they were sort of joking about it at the start of the race, triple stint on tires incoming, and then they actually did it, the absolute madmen. Was it something you guys were considering, or, I know it's one of these things that a lot of even the top drivers, they sort of put the blinders on in terms of strategy. It happened with Coanda in season 1. Oh, you can never double stint tires. Coanda then rewrites the book on on the way strategy works, and it seemed to sort of work here as well. What sort of was the opinion coming in, and does it sort of affect your sort of opinion on what strategy should look like coming away from this race?
Yeah, going into that, I think we were definitely planning on double stinting if it was cooler track temps like it was in here, but the triple stint, we kind of looked at the data and what kind of pace we had to run if we were on new tires for both us and blue team, and the new tire pace would have been so fast that we pretty much would have had to run on qualifying laps every lap without making any mistakes for it to work. So we went with a strategy, with a gamble there. I know it's usually easier to defend than try to come through the field and pass a bunch of cars, because that increases your risk of getting in an incident. So looking back, it's hard to say what the right strategy was here. I guess we'll have to kind of review the notes, review the times, and see if we really made the right call here. But I mean, all in all, second place for the blue team. That was really good for them. They started up there on the pole, which I guess is kind of expected for the McLaren at this track. But they knew in blue team that they had to run well this week in order to get some good points for the championship. So finishing second isn't too bad, but hats off to Kay and Alex there. Those guys ran an awesome race as always, and really nice move by Kay there on the last lap to get Jake by just 0.06 of a second. So, I mean, 3 hours of racing and it comes down to that. It's hard to be too upset about it, but certainly is disappointing to lose it there in the last lap. I think all of us in Discord were really, really nervous there watching that last bit of the race, but it was exciting, and hopefully the fans enjoyed it. And while I'm here, I also want to give a shout out to SimLab, VRacing, all the guys at NX Racing, and SimuCube for their support this year. It's been great having them be partnered with us. Great products for if you're looking for a controller for your direct drive wheel. If you're doing one of the DIY kits, it's really nice software to use and something for you guys to look into. So really kind of looking forward here to Nürburgring in another month. It's going to be an exciting one.
Well, I was going to do the sponsor plugs next, but you've already taken care of that one. So congratulations, PJ, on the good finish. You guys did very well in that BMW. Good luck to the 6-hour race at the Nordschleife.
Thanks,
Randy. Well, not at the Nordschleife, at the Nürburgring.
I wish it was a Nordschleife.
Yeah, I think we all do. But Paul, that's, I think, all the interviews we have. So back over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And, well, we're almost out of time, but just quickly, final thoughts, Conry. What an amazing finish to that race.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm, absolutely ecstatic that we managed to get that final lap battle right at the dying moments there, and to top it off a final lap pass. You can't really ask for a much better finish at all.
And Randy, final thoughts. It wasn't just at the front that there was that close battle. We had the close finishes all the way through your top 10.
Yeah, close finishes up and down the field. It was definitely a very good race, and it's great seeing the different manufacturers be able to be competitive. I also want to say, just looking to the next race, I'm expecting a little bit more from that VRS GT number 8 car. I think we've sort of seen the 3 races in a row now, the strategy really go the wrong way. They've been on the wrong foot, and we got to think back to about the Spa race last season. I think for better part of a whole season, they've been on the wrong term of the strategy. They've had the speed, and they've just I think the decision making in terms of when to do the tire swap and when not to do the tire swap hasn't been there, and I think it's been hurting that group.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you to Conry Medic and Randy Cheneth. Thank you also to Hugo Lewis, who is behind the cameras and the graphics for today. Want to give a quick mention to Istvan Bello, trackcams22.com, if you want to get track cameras like we have here on RaceSpot TV. The overlay design is by Andreas Werner of Andwern Designs. The development of the graphics was brought to you by Simon Grossman from appgeneering.com, who provide us with the Ativo product. And live timing is brought on RaceSpot TV by Nick Thiessen, so thank you very much to those guys. Well, what a race. We're 3 races into the series now. We head on over to the Nürburgring Grand Prix track for what should be an enticing, exciting battle as we go on throughout this series. I've been Paul Smith here. This has been a RaceSpot TV production for iRacing Live, and we'll see you next time. in the VRS GT iRacing World Championship Series. Goodbye.